Joining right now with us live or watching later on, you are the best part of our community. Hi, my name is Renee.
And I'm Gil from the Relationship Refuge.
And we are happy to be here with you. As Gil always says, happy to be here, proud to serve. And we are from the Relationship Refuge, and we are going through the Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage. And we are going to talk today about embracing God's design for marriage. How many of you guys are married or want to be married? Put that in the chat. If you're watching now or you're watching later, are you married or do you desire to be married? So we are going to talk today about embracing God's design for marriage. You guys are probably wondering, what is she doing?
Because I'm wondering because she just, when I say, I try to give her a countdown and say, babe, we got like a couple minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then that's when she gets up and starts running all around.
Yeah, because God spoke to me. He showed me. How many of you guys are visual learners? Mm-hmm. I am. How many of you guys like object lessons? I do. Because we were talking about this. Could I have? I know I probably. I don't.
No, go ahead.
I don't want to offend you. It's one thing to know God's design. It's another thing to embrace it. And I think many of us may know it, because the Bible says don't just be hearers, but to be doers. And we always talk about how we want to be the how-to channel. We want to show you how to. And we have been married. This year, actually, this month, it'll be 36 years we've been married.
Yep.
And we still like each other, and we still date each other. And the reason why I have this in my hand is because I said, how many of you are single? All my single people, hey! Yay, we love you, all of our singles. How many of you are married? Yay, it's 2 of you. Hallelujah, that's wonderful. Well, I can guarantee you this, going into this message or this lesson or this time together, and if you have questions and if you have, you want to debate it or whatever, you're welcome to do that in the comments. I can guarantee you, money back guarantee you, that if you go into marriage as one person, it's really hard. Marriage is really hard when it's only one person doing the job of 3. Because in order for marriage to work, you need you, the person you marry, and God. And while all of these are strong, they're so much stronger. Can you hold it together for me, babe?
I had no idea what we're doing, so I'm just going with the flow, y'all.
But the Bible says that a 3-fold cord is not easily broken. And so I can guarantee you that if you go into what God designed by yourself or just as 2, and if you don't go into it with the way God designed it for it to be 3 people, so all of these 3 things came together to make 1. So it's a lot stronger, and a 3-fold cord is not easily broken. And I know we live in a society now where everybody thinks that they can just know God's design, or they can change God's design, or they can ignore God's design. In order for something to be strong and work the way it was designed, you have to follow the owner's instructions. And when we give our hearts to Christ, God owns us and we belong to him. And so this is how you make a marriage work. You, your spouse, and God.
You know, I have to think about, and that's a good object lesson. I thought about, as we were preparing for this, when we were just dating. And at the time when we were dating, God wasn't even nowhere on my radar.
Me either.
You know I was a, as they say, CME believer or Christian.
Christmas, Easter, and
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
Those are the only time I went to church.
Christmas, Easter.
CME. Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter.
Oh, okay.
Those were the only days that I went to church sometimes, even before I came to understand what it was really all about. And if you think about, and that kind of spilled over into the dating relationship. When I was dating, I was going by my own standards. I didn't know that there was a design or even a idea of a purpose for what dating was really all about, because I was just doing it my own way. I was just doing what I figured was the right way based on experiences, based on things that I seen, and based on things that I heard. Because I really didn't know anything when you're starting out dating, especially at a young age. You really are just mimicking what you see, or mimicking or kind of filling in the gaps of what you think you heard and how it interprets into your own life. And so I was just trying to figure it out. And some things you get right, some things you get wrong. You may have multiple relationships in the past, and you're wondering, what is it that messed up, or where did it go off the rails, or what went wrong, whether it was you or with someone else. Well, the thing that you have to think about is God has a design for everything. Even when you're dating, that if you know what the design is, then you know how it is supposed to operate and how it's supposed to work. And that's what we're sharing with you, because when you embrace God's design for not just marriage and dating, but in relationships, they're going to work.
Just and they're going to be a whole lot stronger.
Because God is going to be intertwined through everything that you do, everything that you say, and everything that you are trying to do in the relationship. So you have to think about, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish? And it's not just about getting a partner to hang out with.
Yeah.
And
so that you won't, and the thing about it, in order for that to get braided, there had to be something that had to be done. It didn't just happen, and God didn't just make it happen. God didn't create us to be robots, or He didn't create us to be mindless. He gave us a desire. He says, He gave us desires. He gave us all a purpose, and He also, we have to understand that God gives us a mind, and He wants us to use our mind. He wants us to use our will. He wants us to choose Him. He said, I place before you life and death, blessings and curses. Okay, He gives us the answer. He says to choose life. And so in this embracing God's design is first the question you have to ask yourself: is the Bible the final authority in your life? It's impossible to embrace God's design for marriage when the Bible is not the final authority in your life. There, like you were talking about, when we were dating, when we were younger, we didn't grow up in church. I got saved when I was 22.
Yeah, somewhere around 22, 21.
23.
Yeah,
because right before we had Aaron.
Yep.
23 is when I got saved and gave my heart to Christ.
And
so
then I was right after that. So we were both 23.
Yeah, so we were younger, so we didn't have the Bible and Christian values and Christian examples as our foundation. But when we were exposed to and we were given the opportunity to make a decision, we chose to make the Bible and Christ and
the authority,
all the things that go along with that, the authority in life. So it's a difference between Him being your Savior and Him being your Lord. He can't be Savior He has to be Savior and Lord of everything, every part of your life, every part of your decision-making process. And when you do that, it makes your life more enjoyable. Does that mean bad things won't happen? Does that mean no?
Life is going to happen.
Yeah, we have had difficulties and ups and downs, but when you say to embrace His ways, is to know what they are. And I think so. When you think about what the design God has for marriage, how would you describe it? What would you say?
I would say the first part is not kind of off of what you're describing, is accepting the Bible as the authority, because just like I was trying to figure things out, hey Mr. Tyler, every time I was trying to figure things out, it was more like, get it right, get it wrong. But then I had to understand that there is a better way. But if you don't seek the better way, then you're just going to keep reduplicating the things over and over and over in your life, and not wondering what's going on or what's wrong. So I would say, even kind of going into this, and if you're just joining us, we're talking about embracing God's design for singleness and also in marriage as you move to marriage, if that's your desire. the things that you can do and things that you can be thinking about right now.
From the Singles Blueprint from Dating and Marriage, chapter 11. That's what we're doing today.
And this is the last chapter that we're going to actually be doing, because this is the last week that we're going to be live.
For this year. This is our last live for the year, y'all. We love y'all.
But see, we just had a squirrel moment, so sorry about that. But it kind of goes back into what we're talking about, embracing God's design for dating and marriage. If you started out with a plan and with knowing and understanding how God designed things to work, you're probably going to have more success. So the first one we're going to talk about is a little bit of kind of what Renee is talking about with our example. You're a single individual and you get connected with another person, and having God intertwined into it, the two shall become one.
Well, it's really the three, because God has to be. Because a lot of the things that you are expected to do and expected to understand. This morning we were doing a devotional. Gil was like, babe, I want to do our devotional together. And so he's doing OBC. And we love OBC. Gil started doing that years and years and years ago. And the thing that
it's an online Bible college. They have like over, it has to be over 400 lessons that you can do. But anyway.
And it was just
we're talking about the authority of God's word. Of his word, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was beautiful, because I think one of the things that we don't understand, and maybe people don't talk about, marriage, while it is beautiful and it is a gift, it is designed by God for a purpose. And it's for two people who have a purpose to come together to fulfill God's purpose. So marriage is not just for us. Marriage is for all of us. Our responsibility when we get married is to say we will be God's representative of who he is, from the feminine and from the masculine. And so in a marriage, we are showing the world love and joy and peace and goodness and heartache and ups and downs and highs and lows. That's what we say when we say, what do you want to get married for? I want to get married so that I can show the world who God is in my life. And while all the other things are great, but at the end of the day, the Bible says only what we do for Christ is going to matter. And so if you're looking at marriage as a way, I always say marriage is where you go to serve and to give.
Oh my gosh.
Marriage is where you have to become selfless. Marriage is where you learn to be second. And if you don't understand that, and you think marriage is just about the wedding and the vacations and having kids and buying houses and buying cars, you're going to miss out on the most important part of it. Because when life comes and when difficulty comes, if you go into it thinking that it's just about this other person fulfilling all of my desires and dreams, then it's gonna knock you over. Because guess what? Gil is human.
Yep.
And he has growth areas and strengths, and he has needs, and he has frailties. And so if I'm coming to him expecting for him to be the answer to all of my problems and the source of my strength, then he's going to disappoint me. And I'm going to disappoint him. So when we go into marriage understanding what it's for, what God designed it for, I think it gives you a different perspective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You think about, you're coming together as a single individual with another person. In our society and in our culture today, it's a bunch of individualism. It's a bunch of things that is all about me and what I'm trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to do. Well, that is the polar opposite of what God's design for your relationship would be. Like Renee was just describing, self-fulfillment is what the world says. Well, the opposite of that is to be selfless. Where you are looking to serve this other individual. One thing that I can say about our relationship is I didn't recognize some of the things that I needed to work on until God put this white-haired woman in my life. Because therefore, that became something that was become very obvious. Yes, you can hear it from other sources, but when you hear it from someone that is the closest person to you about not just things that you're doing wrong, I'm talking about things that make you better than who you are by yourself, because you're not aware of some of the things that are, we call them growth areas that are in your life, until God puts someone in your life to say, you know what, that's something that you may want to look at or work on. Well, it's a partnership. It's a partnership of understanding that God has put you together for a goal and a reason and a purpose. And as long as you are looking to do that, That is what it's really all about.
Let's make sure it didn't stop.
No,
okay.
it didn't
Hey,
stop.
yeah, okay. We're going to keep going.
Just want to make sure it didn't stop.
Sorry, guys.
It's weird. It flipped the view, but that's okay. So, like we were talking about, so that you have to be looking to serve this other person. And if you're not looking to serve this other person, you're going to have some serious challenges when it comes to what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish in our lives as two individuals that have come together to become one?
Yeah. And I think about it, it's like, I know that it doesn't sound romantic and it doesn't sound sexy and it doesn't sound fun, but those things are the byproduct of you having a real understanding. Because I think about it, Gil and I have been together for 39 years. We dated for 3 years before we got married. And so if you think about it, to be with someone that long, people say, well, how do you keep it hot? And how do you not get bored? And how do you... It's because you have an understanding of what it is. I understand that I am sharing my life with an heir, a king. I understand that I am called to love and submit and serve this person, this man, this amazing gift. I don't just look at him as my husband. I look at him as a co-heir. He's my brother in Christ. He is the head. I look at all the things that the Bible says about who he is. And so it's not just the man, it's also the purpose. It's the plan. It's the leadership. It's the mantle that God has put on him. And so when you come into it with that understanding, it just makes it more enjoyable and more fulfilling, and it gives it longevity.
Yes, so if you just joined us, thanks for joining. Thanks for hanging out. Put it in the chat where you're checking it out from, where you're coming to join us from. This is something we do every Saturday. We've been doing it for a little while now. We try to come with you with some planting seeds. We're just trying to sprinkle some seeds into your relationships to give you some things to think about as you're growing in your relationship with another person, to give you a plan. Because when we were coming up, we really didn't have a plan. We really didn't have an idea of what this marriage thing was supposed to look like, because we are just trying to figure it out.
Right.
Well, when you don't figure it out, you're going to make those mistakes that make you go, whoa, what is going on? But if you think about, hey, this is something that I'm pursuing with another person, a life mission, a life goal. And that's another thing that we're talking about today, is about embracing God's design for marriage. But before you actually get to that point, you have to understand, what is the design all about? And we're just sharing with you some of the things that we put about in the book.
The Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage. You can pick it up at your local Barnes & Noble, or go to Barnes & Noble online.
Or reach out to us, and we can do it through the website and all that stuff. It's in the link. It's on all the stuff that we have out there on us. And say, hey, I want that book, man. Let me check that thing out. Because we've been getting good reports from the people who have been reading it. But we have to warn you. We have to warn you. Don't get this book if you do not want to be challenged.
Yes, and that's one of the things we keep hearing. Man, this book ain't no joke. Because we believe that it is two individuals. You're an individual. So relationships, and even when we work with couples, we always say, this is about me helping me to be the best version of me, and Gil to be the best version. So when we work with couples, it's not about you telling me what the other person is doing wrong. It's about you looking at yourself. Because the most important thing you can do to get prepared to spend your life with another person is to really get to know and understand your growth areas, your strengths, your highs, your lows, your likes, your dislikes, the things you need to get better at. Because a part of what sharing your life with someone else is going to do, it's going to expose you to things about yourself that you don't know. And so if you go into it knowing that it's not just going to be dinner and sex, it's going to be sometimes being told something that you may not like. It's going to be sometimes doing things you may not like to do. Like Gil's really neat and organized, and I'm not. But over the years, I have learned to adopt that to the best of my personality bend.
Yep.
And so just knowing that when you make a decision to say, I'm going to spend my life with someone else, it's not, I'm giving myself away.
Right.
I'm sharing my life with you.
You know, and that's something that we want to share with you, that if you're in a relationship with someone, every relationship is unique. If we are just sharing with you the things that we have done in ours, that hopefully you can take and translate it and morph it into something that will work for you. that when you think about your relationship, we all come from different backgrounds. We come from different experiences and those
Have
things.
different
personalities.
Different order of, like, I'm the oldest, Gil is the middle child. You know, all of those things play a part. And so we're not trying to give you a cookie cutter, one size fit all, because God doesn't do that. Every marriage is different. Every couple is different. Every couple's call, every couple's bend, every couple's mission is going to be different.
Yep, especially God's design is for you guys to partner in to achieve your own goals and your visions and things that you're aspiring to as an individual. You're not expected to just dismiss those and just throw them to the wayside when you get with someone or partner in with someone for life. That is to help you get there. I can think about some things that Renee has helped me become very instrumental, not just career-wise, but me as an individual-wise. For I think about one that comes to mind, God's design was for me to be emotionally healthy. I know that's weird hearing it from a guy, because it's two things that guys, I like to say it, and I said it multiple times, that these two emotions we have down pat, lust and anger. We don't need to express those any other kind of way. We already were taught those things inherently that are just in us naturally. But when you think about what is it like to be vulnerable? What is it like to be apprehensive, have anxiety, have vulnerability? All those other emotions that women have in spades, in droves, that can help us manifest those things in our lives, because you can't become a healthier person if you're only doing lust and anger. If you're only manifesting those two, you're going to have a difficult life when it comes to partnering in with another person to understand the complexity that women bring.
Yes. Gil always says, I'm an enigma.
I'm going to say that. Women can be very complex.
Yes, and I know that, and I agree. And I think, to me, that's something you have to be willing to be honest with yourself about what you bring to a relationship. Everything that I bring is not wonderful and beautiful. And so as long as I'm aware of that, so when he comes and tells me something that I need to work on, I have to have enough humility, grace, empathy, patience, submission, kindness, gentleness to say, thank you, babe. I appreciate you for telling me that.
I'll be totally honest. When your partner comes to you with something that is not positive, something that you may need to correct or need to work on, you shouldn't embrace it.
Or something that they need.
Something that they need. You shouldn't then look at it as a point of contention. We always say you should look at it as a point of opportunity. Yeah. We believe that God embraces His design is for you to become the best person that you can be. And the way that happens is by you being challenged to get better.
And you know what? And in the beginning, I wish I could say we got this right in the beginning. No, we didn't. This is something that we have learned and we adopted. And so a part of becoming someone different is that you have to do something different. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I grew up in a home with very dominant, cussing women who would get you told and let you have it. So I had to undo.
And I did not.
I had to unlearn so much of that in order for our lives to not be infected by the way I was brought up. And so I know that some of us can say, well, that's all I know and that's all I bring to the table. There are too many books and the Holy Spirit.
Too many podcasts, too many lives.
Too many opportunities for you to see a different way, for you to continue to do things the way you've always done them. So in order to get something different, you have to do something different. So I had to change my mindset about correction. I had to change my mindset. You and I were talking about this. I had to change my mindset about submitting to authority. Because Gil asked me, he said, have there been times in your walk with God where submitting to God's authority as far as the word of God being your authority, has it been hard for you? I said, no, my problem has been submitting to people that God put in authority.
Right.
I'm fine with what the word says. My issue came from unrighteous leaders or unrighteous parents. And our Pastor Scott Holmes, Pastor Scott, we love you. He taught us that authority is ordained by God. So I don't have to respect the person. I have to respect the office.
The
I have to
position.
respect the position because God put it there. And so I mentioned that we were doing the OBC, and they gave a great example of a little sister saw her brother steal a cookie. And the sister said, "You better put that cookie back." And the brother totally dismissed her. And so then the little sister goes to tell Daddy that the brother stole the cookie. And he came back and said, "Daddy said you better put that cookie back." Well, guess what he did? It was the same message, but it was the origin of the authority. So when God says something versus when I tell you something, it's not going to be the same.
Exactly.
And so we have to understand that he should have respected, because it was the same message from the father or from the sister. We have to get to the place in our life where we're mature and wise enough to know that if someone is telling you something that is right, whether they say "Thus saith the Lord" or not, we have to have the kind of hearts and the minds that I'm going to do what is right because this person is. And you're convicted. You know when something is right or wrong, and so you have to make a decision. Am I going to be the kind of person that I submit to authority, or that I listen and obey, or do I have to learn from experience?
Mm-hmm. So as we talking about embracing God's design for marriage, we thanks for you guys for joining in and hanging out with us today. Put it in the chat. Is there something about design that you believe that God designed for marriage and relationships to be that should be embraced by everybody? Because you think about, we all have different ways of doing things. Mm-hmm. We all have different experiences. We all have different, life happens to all of us in different ways. Mm-hmm. What has been something in your relationships that has been a challenge that you have found that if God said this is how it's supposed to work, this is something that I'm going to embrace in my relationship based on how he designs? Because this is we are followers of Christ. This is a Christian,
faith-based, scripture-based, Christ-centered, solution-oriented.
Yeah, that's our foundation. That's the authority that we're coming from. Not just two people that grew up on the east side and west side of Detroit trying to figure things out and how it goes, because Lord knows we didn't have the best examples. But guess what? He has a design and a plan that if you get into his word and follow it, it will help you come to fruition and come to a better way and a better state. Thanks, guys, for putting in the chat. Oh, yeah, we definitely always want to talk about the Lord. JJ from Senegal, West Africa, thanks for joining us. Is that JJ or J? Yeah, I think that's JJ. Give me a thumbs up, JJ, if that's you still watching and listening and hanging out with us. So that's what we're talking about today, embracing God's design
for marriage.
So one of the other God design, we believe, emphasis that it puts on relationships is your relationship is not a destination. It is a journey. And when we talk about journey, Renee kind of mentioned it already a little bit. It is a journey of discovery of two individuals coming together to become what God has put you guys together for, which is to manifest his glory in the earth to other people. You know, there are going to be times where you are going to struggle with differences, opinions. Mm-hmm. You're going to have different mindsets.
Childhood of origin. Pain from our past, that's a big one.
Yeah, pain from your past, or as people like I would say one of the words of 2024, I would probably say I have never heard so much is toxic. Toxic behaviors, toxic interactions, toxic things that have happened to you in your life. Those
what about
things
toxic
that have
disobedience? What about that?
Well, you can elaborate on that one.
Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. But I think that we have to make sure that we are looking at because it's so easy to look outward and say, this needs to be done, and that needs to be done, and they need to do this, and they need to do that. I find it to be more beneficial and to be healthier for me to say, what do I need to do different? Mm-hmm. What am I bringing to the table that's unhealthy? Because the last time I checked, there is no scriptures in the Bible that give us control over other people. The only control God gives us is over ourselves. And so if we're always saying, Lord, what do I need to do different? Where do I need to grow? And I ask you, babe, how could I better serve you? Mm-hmm. What are some areas where I can up my game? How could I be a better friend, a better wife, a better lover, a better prayer partner, we have to be willing to examine ourselves, but also check in with the person that we're spending our life with, or that we say we want to spend our life with, and be open to it not just being, oh, you're doing wonderful. Because that's not realistic.
Right.
It's not realistic to think that you're only going to be. We'd always tell our daughter, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader and your most honest critic. Because the only way you're going to grow is if you learn what's good and what needs to change.
Mm-hmm. And if you think about those two things, that is not a natural interaction that you would naturally have in your relationship, to go to the other person and say, hey, what do I need to work on? Not until it's, when that happens, when things are starting to get worse, when things are starting to get bad, that's when that mindset comes up to where you want to get better because you are trying to make corrections. Now, when things start out good. Things start out with everybody smiling, everybody's on their best behavior, everybody's doing the right things. But guess what? As you've been together a period of time, over time, things are going to start coming up. But you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? How do you handle it if your significant other or your spouse comes to you and say, hey, babe, I think we're struggling in this area. It's not just a me problem, it's an us problem. And if you embrace it from that perspective and saying, how can we get better at this? Not just how can you do this and how can you not do that? Then when you put the onus on the other person, just correct the behavior without giving them any direction and any guidelines to go by, you're setting them up for failure. They're not mind readers. They're not a person that can just naturally know what's going on. There are times that when you get embraced with this other person, yes, there are times where you can walk into the room and know that there's something wrong. I always say, you feel a disturbance in the force. But guess what? Until you ask the question, you're just filling in the gaps. Right. You're just filling in with your own mindset. You're filling in how that conversation would go. Well, she's going to say this. Well, I'm going to say that. And he's going to say this, and then I'm going to say that. But guess what? That's where you have to communicate openly and honestly and be transparent about the things that you're struggling with or that you want to see change. Right. Because this relationship has to be a compromise. It's not just one way. It's not just Gil's way. It's not just Renee's way. It's something that we have to partner in together. This is a partnership that we have to embrace because that's how God designed it to be, not just a one-person-led, driven event that we happen to just exchange rings and all of a sudden only one person is still doing all the work. That's not how it works.
Right. Well, it doesn't work that way. And one of the things that we talk about is knowing the work. I think so many times people say, because Gil said that, you talked about when we first got married, someone told me you need to work on your marriage. Well, what is the work that you need to be working on? Well, you need to be working on you. You need to be working on your relationship with God. You need to be working on learning and listening and becoming a student of the other person and understanding that marriage is where you go to serve, you go to give, you go to help, because the Bible talks about the principles of sowing and reaping. I am going to reap what I sow. So if I sow love and goodness and gentleness and kindness, guess what? I'm going to reap it back. But I'm not looking for it. It doesn't have to be from my husband. It could be from some other place. And so it's not that you're giving to get, but when you do give, you're going to receive. And so a lot of it, and we were talking about it this morning, I said, I think a lot of it is, the Bible says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Our mindsets can be one of the biggest obstacles to us really experiencing the God-designed life. God designed for our life, he says they will know you by your love one for another. So it's not like he gave us 50 things we have to do. He really only gave a woman, a wife to, and a husband to.
Yep. So put it in the chat. What do you think is some of the most challenging areas that people have when it comes to changing, or that you may have when it comes to your relationships that you continue to struggle with? I like what Brian just said. Too much of our society is applying the world's standards and expectations in relationships and building emotional bond instead of God's world, principles, and his nature for real, tangible outcomes. Very well put, Brian. Yeah. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like we talk about, it's embracing God's design. It didn't say knowing God design. It didn't say agreeing with God. It's embracing. And so how do you embrace something that's not tangible? Then it has to be put out there so you can understand, well, what am I embracing? What am I saying yes to? When you say that you're going to get married, you're saying that I am willing to share my life, my goals, my dreams with another person who is doing the same thing. So it's like we talked about the three strand cord is not easily broken. So it takes three, and Gil talked about it's a journey, not a destination. It's weaving and dancing. It's bending. It's being flexible. It's all of those things, and it's over time. I think one of the things that I think that we neglect to remember is when you say your vows, you say for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, until I get tired of him, until I change my mind. No, until death do us part. So I think that when you go into it understanding what you're saying yes to, who you're saying yes to, and what that's going to look like, it makes it, I know for me, I like to make, and this is something I've learned from my husband, and he always talks about what he's taught me. Oh, I would not be the same person I am without him. His patience, his long suffering, his gentleness, his selflessness. Gil has taught me to be a better thinker. Gil has taught me to be slower to speak and to think about what I say makes other people feel. And so in a healthy relationship, you're both learning from each other, and you're growing, and you're being challenged, and you're being called up, not out. He always calls me up. And I think sometimes we don't know the difference between being called up and called out. When someone is calling you up, they show you what needs to be changed, and they help you come up with a plan to do that. If they're just telling you all the things that's wrong without providing any solutions, they're calling you out. And most people respond better to being called up versus being called out.
That's an awesome point, because when you think about that, goes back into God's design for marriage and relationships. We are always aspiring to get better. You should be always aspiring to get better. You should be partnered in with someone who wants you to be better, not someone who's trying to tear you down or not looking to make you better than you were by yourself. If you are not any better than you were before, while you were single, than when you got with someone, whether it's a marriage or even in a dating phase, if you are not getting better even in a dating time, then you may want to reevaluate where's the destination, or where are we going, or what are we using as our gauge for this relationship and this marriage. Not that, one thing that we always talked about is when divorce happens. That came up. One thing that Renee and I started our relationship with is we don't even use the divorce word or threat or ideal or principle, because
it's never been on the table.
I was a product of divorce, and that does irreparable damage not only to you as individuals. You're never gonna overcome it. You're gonna always have that, I believe, wound from it. You it just like a scar on your arm.
It
heals.
Gonna always be there.
You're gonna have a mark from it that comes into life, that plays into life, especially when you haven't dealt with the causes and what got me to that point. When you embrace those things to say, how can I get better at it? Then that's where the real growth comes. This should be the person that is challenging you to get better at it. We understand that life happens. The Bible talks about it. God's design for people is once you do it the first time, it's over. It's done. That's just the way he designed it. But that tells you that there's a lot of work that you should be doing up front in the beginning, before you exchange vows and rings and have ceremonies, to say, I am committing. And that's what this really is. It's a commitment not only to God that you're making in front of God, you're embracing this other person and saying, this is it. So many times we've talked to people and we've heard it, where they start second guessing the person that they have decided to choose or to spend the rest of their life with. Is it that God made a mistake, or you made the mistake? Or is it something that you missed? I always say it like this: is your picker broken? Is there something about the person that you continually pick that is causing you to redo it over and over and over again? Or you have to look back at yourself and say, hey, What is it that I keep missing? What is it that is in me that needs to change so I can see these things better and more clear?
And the thing that I love about God is that while God hates divorce, there are grounds for divorce for us. So we're not saying that we believe that you should stay in relationships if you're being abused, if there's physical abuse, if there's child abuse. We're not saying that.
He even has a design in that.
Because
On the grounds of infidelity.
Right.
That's his design.
Right. And
you have a right to get divorced. Don't mean you have to. Just means you have by God's design, you can go.
Yeah, and so it's understanding that in every decision that we make, we have to be wise enough. We have to be kind enough to ourselves and the people around us to really think things through. And so the reason why the Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage was designed, because what we see is people love the idea of being a bride or a groom, but not a husband and a wife. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to be proactive and start working with people in the dating stage, because by the time you've already set a date, it really doesn't matter what anyone says. Most people are going to still just get married. And so why do we need to know all this? You need to be able to, you're talking about making a lifelong commitment. You should be willing to spend money and time on that before, because it will cost you more money and more time later than once you're in it. And so that's why we do this. Mm-hmm. That's why this is important to us. That's why, because we realize, again, that our marriage is not just for us.
It's for the community.
It's for the people around us, the people that will meet us and see us, because we are God's representative. We're his ambassadors. We're representing, what it looks like for two people to love God and each other in it's a covenant, not a contract. Mm-hmm. Because again, I said it before, a covenant is two people agreeing to love and accept each other and grow together. A contract is, I will love you as long as you perform and you do all the things I tell you to do. It's more based on performance, whereas a covenant is a choice. Yep. And so it's different. What God gives is always going to be better than any substitute or replica that the enemy can provide us with. So we have to make sure that those of us who are married, we have a responsibility. And for us, we know we are called to really share the gospel with people and sharing marriage with people, because it's what we both love. We both enjoy it. We both enjoy each other. We are enjoying our journey. And we just want to bring you along with us. That's why we do this.
Yep. So we enjoy hanging out with you guys. Yay! Put it in the chat. We thank you, Brian, for chiming in, and JJ and all the other ones who put in something in the chat, just in exchange, because this is something that we are just trying to sow seeds into others and share with you guys the things that we are on our journey with.
Yes.
This is a journey, like I said, that we're just sharing with you where we're going and what we're doing. And inviting you along to come along for the ride, because y'all, if you don't have an opportunity to, or if you don't have the desire to want to serve and to get better and to be the best person that you can be and be challenged and Renee,
be uncomfortable,
don't get married.
Yeah.
Because when people say this is work, it is real work. It's not the kind of...
It's not a job.
It's not laborious work. It's not laborious work like you go to your 9 to 5 and you hate and you sweat and you toil based on what you're doing to earn a paycheck. This is the kind of work that is going to challenge you as the individual.
You know what? It's kind of like when you work out.
Go to the gym.
When you work out, it hurts and it's uncomfortable. But when you see your body changing, you're like, oh, yeah, I like this. So marriage is more like working out than work. Mm-hmm. Because, it's like a workout. You actually see, you're like, oh, I love the way I look. I'm going to keep on doing this. Whereas...
But you don't want to get up early or stay in the gym late or do that extra rep or do that extra time on the whatever machine that you're doing.
But when you see the results are, when you say the juice is worth the squeeze. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not just for you and your spouse. It's for everyone around you. It's for the community, the world, the culture, the people that are going to see you. Because the Bible says you overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. Our marriages are our testimony of our love for God. Mm-hmm. And our relationship. So how can I say I love God that I can't see and I can't get along with who he created.
And that's so amazing to me, that how does something start out so good, whether you're dating, where you get the butterflies in your stomach, or even get down to walking down the aisle and you see your bride or you see your groom standing there and you're like, oh my gosh, or this is, you know, you do all the things and you have those butterflies and those good feelings. And then somewhere along the line, it changes to where, unfortunately, we've been in that situation where we work with couples where it turned the polar opposite of that, where they really don't like each other anymore, or they're having difficulties and challenges. Well, go ahead, tell them, share it with them. I always wondered.
I think a part of it is that while the butterflies and the way that they look is good, what really makes you stay together and what keeps you together is an understanding that I'm not marrying or in a relationship with someone that's perfect. Mm-hmm. I don't expect for Gil to be perfect. I expect for him to fail me. I expect for him to disappoint me. I expect for him to be human. Because guess what? I'm going to do that. Yep. So I think that a lot of times we go into marriage with a very unrealistic expectation and understanding of what it is. It's not a Disney movie. It's not
rose-colored glasses where everything is going to be perfect.
Yeah, and so it's understanding that it's going to be highs and lows and good days and bad days, but I'm sharing the purpose that God has for my life with another person and other people. So it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We got the last few minutes of this live that we're doing. We just giving you an opportunity. If you got questions or comments that you want to put in the chat, go ahead, throw it down there. If you got a question about some of the things that we talked about, or some of the things that you want to see in 2025 when it comes to some topics, we're always looking at it. We've been working on the new for 2025, the things that we're going to be talking about, because we're going to be here.
Yes, we're going to be here.
We hope you're here, but we're going to be here. Even if it's just one person, we're going to be talking to.
Yes, we are.
We'll just talk to each other if necessary. Because we do that. You know, because this is something that we believe in, and we want to help and plant seeds. So we always say it like in the podcast. We always we appreciate your time for sticking us in your ears or watching us on the camera. While this is fun and this work, it's not the kind of work that we don't enjoy. So we want to just bring you along in the community. We thank you for the thumbs up and hanging out with us, and the chimes and the videos and everything that has happened in 2024 as we get ready to go into Christmas and go to the next one.
And our anniversary.
Yes, it'll be 36 years, December 28th.
Yes.
Now, hold up. I see Brian just put in something meant to say. The positive outcome of the journey is an example of what's possible for others who are struggling. Absolutely. And if you are struggling, by all means, reach out to us. Yeah. We're here to help you on your journey. While we can come with a bunch of topics and a bunch of discussions that we want to talk about, well, we're also understanding that every couple is unique and every individual is unique. And yours may be something that you may not want to put in the chat, and you may want to talk person to person. By all means, give us a call. Reach us through the website. I'll let Renee say all that because this is what she does every day.
help@richrelationshipRefuge.com is our email. I would put our phone number on here, but then the wrong people will be calling us. So if you send us an email, help@richrelationshipRefuge.com,
we would definitely reach out to
you. We will respond. We'll reach out to you because we understand that, and I said it before, we want to prevent people from ending their marriage at the beginning of the year. We want to encourage you and empower you to do the work and to know where you need to grow as an individual so that your relationship can reflect the masculine and feminine aspect of God's nature, because that's what marriage is all about. And it's about doing it in community and having accountability. And sometimes there's things that we will hear, we need to hear the same thing from a different voice. Yes. Sometimes you need that neutral person that can say, well, you know, hey, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that, or, you know, helping you with your communication, your conflict resolution, understanding your own self, your own voice, your own communication style. You know,
things.
We're in another program. We're studying something else we're learning, and it's amazing that no matter how long you've been together, the human experience is so complex that there's still things about you that you don't understand. And so the more you become a student of yourself and understanding the way God wired you, your growth areas, your strengths, the better you can be in relationships.
Absolutely. So
love you. We're going to still be putting content
videos up there,
but we won't be live. And so we love you. We appreciate you guys spending this year with us. And we hope that you are wiser and more humble and have more empathy and are kinder and are funnier, and that you're enjoying
the journey,
the gift of the journey of marriage and dating. And so if you have not subscribed, please subscribe.
Thanks for the thumbs up and hanging out with us.
Please
share with people who need this content. We hear constantly about people say, man, yeah, this stuff is so needed. We have so many videos out there.
It's 1900 now, y'all.
But
I kept saying
help
16.
Us, help
1900.
Us, share this with people who are struggling. You may not feel like you're equipped and have the answers. Well, point them in a direction.
Yes. Because guess what? We don't feel like we have all the answers.
But we're just trying.
We're willing to share
the information
what we've learned and what we know. Feedback, and we have questions. And can we start off with answering one of the questions we got from our community?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to start off answering one of the questions we got from our community. From one of the beautiful people in our TikTok community, the question was, what do you do when you have started off the wrong way? What do you do when you're on the wrong track? And I thought that was a really good question. So I said I would make a video, we would talk about that. And so I just want to start off by saying we all start off doing things the wrong way, like we were just talking about with the video, you know. And one of the things, we were watching another video with one of my sister, we were watching it, that we did when we were in Alabama. It was a message about me doing a backsplash with grout, and I had all these plans of how I was going to do it, and I did it wrong, and I messed up, and it was terrible. Gil kept encouraging me, but the thing that taught me was, and the thing that I want to encourage the person who asked that question, and I'm going to go back and I'll tag her in the comments, but that's the purpose of grace. That's the purpose of salvation. That's the purpose of forgiveness. When you do the wrong thing, hi, thanks for joining us. When you do the wrong thing, when you start off the wrong way, you stop, you repent, you ask God to forgive you. And if there's a person that's involved that you need to ask them to forgive you, go to them and say, hey, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Now, I'm not saying that if you think somebody is mad at you, you go to them and say that. That's not what it says. If you have an ought against your brother, go to your brother. Not if you think your brother has an ought against you. Because sometimes we go to people with things that really are us and it has nothing to do with them.
Right.
And so if you have offended them, you go to them and you ask for forgiveness. So that's what you do when you're on the wrong track, when you've done the wrong thing, when you've done the human thing. You repent, you turn away, you ask forgiveness, and you learn new habits and practice something different.
You know, I think about, you remember when you were growing up and you were either playing a game or something outside, or you were at school playing something or a board game or whatever. But what came to mind was, you remember something called a do-over?
Yeah.
You know, if you are playing something or doing something, you're like, hold up, wait. I messed up. I get a do-over.
Yeah.
Well, you actually get a do-over when it comes to mistakes that you may make in relationships. Sometimes, you know, unfortunately, sometimes people won't give you that grace or that forgiveness and give you that understanding that you need to get past it. But you can actually go to them and say, don't say I get a do-over. Say I made a mistake, I own it, you know, especially if it wasn't malicious or if it wasn't intentional. If you literally made a mistake, say, hey, I made a mistake and I want to make it right. And you know, in our day and time now that we're living in, I think sometimes people have a problem with taking ownership of when they make mistakes or they do things wrong, or even if you made an intentional mistake. But guess what? And if you own it and go back onto it, go back over it, I think people are looking to forgive. I really believe that.
If you ask them to.
Yeah, I really believe that, because we always want to put the best or believe the best in people, I believe. You know, in our world, in our day and times that you look at, you can turn on the news or turn on television or whatever, and you can see constant negativity or negative energy or however you want, toxic behavior, however you want to describe it and see it. But guess what? It takes more effort and energy to do the opposite, you know, like forgive someone or take ownership of something that you may have made a mistake in, and get over it, you know, and try to make restitution or make amends or whatever. And sometimes you don't get that opportunity,
Right.
you know, unfortunately, because sometimes people don't necessarily want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Reconcile.
Yeah.
They don't want to reconcile,
And that's okay.
if it's beyond that. But as you still have a duty to make ownership of it. So that's something that we wanted to answer. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we understand that there's a difference between a mistake and a bad choice.
Right.
A mistake is I spilled the milk and I knocked it over.
Unintentional.
Right.
Yeah.
So a mistake is an unintentional error. A bad choice is you knowingly knew that you were doing the wrong thing and you still did it anyway.
Right.
And I think that is something we have to be mindful of. We have to, we talk about living a life of fear of regret. So you want to make sure that making mistakes, that's going to happen. You're going to knock stuff over. You know, you're going to do things that maybe you may have said something or have offended somebody that you didn't know it, you didn't mean to. But we have to be more conscious of not willfully doing things that we know are going to hurt the people who we love and care about and the people who we're in a relationship with.
Yep. And I think it's all about motivation.
It is.
What was your motivation for doing, or even whether it was a mistake or even if it was intentional, what was your motivation for whatever happened? You know, and that's the part that you really have to own. There's a thing called intentionality or malicious motives. When you intentionally set out to do wrong against someone, that's
a character issue.
that's definitely one of those things that you have to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, why am I like this? Why am I doing this? Because, and especially if you're looking at it from a relationship standpoint, that can be even more challenging because you're going to be prone to make those same mistakes over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us on this Saturday. Yeah.
If you're watching now, if you're watching later, put in the comments where you're coming in from and how you found out about us. Let us know that. We want to know that.
Yep. And questions, comments. This is an engaged, interactive thing. You know, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago. No, 2 weeks ago. We had people interacting
and asking
in the
questions.
community, and that was awesome. You know, because yes, we can get up here and talk about the things, whether it's in the book of our own experience of being together for 35 years, going into 36 this month. But everybody has their own experience, and you can learn from something. Yeah, and we can definitely learn from you guys as you put things in the chat, and we'll respond to it. Renee responds to the comments a lot more than I do. I read them, but Renee is like, she's on it.
This is my thing.
Yes,
you guys are my people.
Yes. So, but what we're talking about, if you're just joining us over the past 8 weeks or 6 weeks, roughly, a few weeks, I'll just put it that way, a while. We've been going through the chapters in the Singles Blueprint, the book that we wrote last year. Was it last year? This year. Yeah. This year. And basically focusing on the singles and even some of the behavior and some of the things that you can hopefully empower you with, some of the tools and skills that we always talk about on the Rich Relationship Refuge, whether it's the podcast or the other videos. We want to help empower. We want to join a community of like-minded individuals trying to get better at relationships.
Yeah.
Man, I cannot believe that, Steve. Are you really in Scotland? Come on, man.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Man, what time is it in Scotland? Boy, you are dedicated. I appreciate you just jumping on and looking and hanging out with us. Put comments in there,
If
Steve.
you have questions, things you want to know, why do we do this? We do this because we realize that after working with couples for 19 years, we work with engaged couples, we work with married couples, but we realize, why not be proactive? Why wait until someone is already engaged to start talking to them about marriage? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to be proactive and help the people in our community and the people in our world and around the world have an understanding of a realistic understanding of what healthy, God-honoring, fulfilling relationships look like. And so we're right now going through the Singles Blueprint, but as Gil mentioned, we have another book. It's called Our Marital Code to Oneness. We wrote it during the pandemic with 21 other couples, and we created the workbook. And so we're going to go through the workbook for the couples next. And I just want to encourage you all. I know that right now, everybody wants us to come in February and do love stuff and talk about relationships. But unfortunately, most couples by January, if they have already struggled all year, they're getting a divorce in January. So we want to be proactive and encourage you that if you feel like you're at the end of your rope, please do something different. Join us, reach out to us, become a part of our community. We have over 1,600 videos on YouTube to kind of answer some of your questions. And if it doesn't answer it, put the questions in the comments in the feed and we will answer them.
So we're actually going to be talking about commitment or engagement.
Which one comes first?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Actually, when you think about what the word commitment and engagement are, sometimes people make the two synonymous. They make them two.
The ability to text, all these tools that you guys have access to, we did not have that. And so we were at even more of a disadvantage than any of you are. So if you're joining now, if you're joining later, my name is Renee.
And Gil from the Rich Relationship
And
Refuge.
we're going to talk about, and we're going to show you how to. So in the chat, so when you come in now, or if you're watching later, please let us know what of these 10 things have you struggled with. And we're not only going to talk about them, we're going to give you some solutions. We're going to show you how to be aware of and how to navigate these 10 red flags.
You know, a part of being aware of the red flags is only part of it. You know, like Renee was just talking about, you can give when you know it, what do you do about it?
Right.
And unfortunately, we've seen and we've talked to so many couples that they tend to ignore the things that they seen.
Red flags don't go away.
And move forward. And the next thing you know, they regretted some of the decisions that they made, especially when it comes to relationships about long-term commitments.
And I can say, okay, so I did hair for 28 years, so I dealt with a lot of women. Out of the women I spoke with over the 28 years, if let's say that I had 30 of them that had been divorced, out of those 30, I would say that at least 8 of them knew before they walked down the aisle that they should not have married that person. Pause for that. So that means that most of us go into something that we know that is not good for us, knowing it. And so my question to you is, why would you ignore something if you know it's not going to fare well on your behalf? Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we want to talk about also is this list is not it's not everything. It's not inclusive. These are just things that we wrote down that we notice over and over again. Now, you may have experienced some of the things.
And if you have some other ones, put them in the
let
chat.
us know what they are. But if you have not experienced everything that's on the list, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you have seen some of the things, we just want you to pay attention to the things that you see and not ignore them as you're dating and as you're getting to know this person when it comes to long-term relationships and commitment. So the first one we're going to talk about, it's the foundation, we believe, of every relationship. You know, like I said, we were dating for 3 years, and during that time we did a lot of talking. And during those talking things, we spent and we shared both ways. You know, when I say that, I'm talking about Renee just didn't do all the talking as it related to her. We're talking about communication, you know, or lack thereof. If you don't communicate when it comes to the dating cycle, what do you think is going to happen when you get a ring on your finger?
And let me tell you why you could be in a relationship with someone and not communicate. Because we think that sex is intimacy.
I'm going to adjust the light. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Sex is not intimacy. Communication is the foundation for intimacy. You have to be able to share your dreams, your goals, your fears, your concerns. And we were talking about it this morning, the foundation for building a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship, is based on friendship.
Yes.
How many of you have friends that you don't talk to? I know all my friends, I talk to them. We talk. I know their goals, their dreams, their hopes, their fears, and they know mine. And so if you're going into the biggest red flag in any relationship is if it's, and one of the ways that it can be could have a lack of communication is if you become physical too soon. So one of the ways to overcome a lack of communication is to go into dating taking physical interactions off the table.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? It's like you go into the relationship already knowing that being physical will only happen once you get one of these right here, a ring.
That's when it should happen.
That's when it should happen.
You know, the other part that we especially would want to talk about when it comes to the lack of communication part is if you've been dating someone and there seems to be always gaps in the communication cycle, means sometimes they're just difficult to reach or get to or even just respond to or don't respond to you. I'm talking physically, you call them or text them and they don't respond, or you are actually in their presence and you start talking or trying to get to know them, and we'll talk about that a little bit more on the list a little bit later, and they're just not responding to your inquiries or the things that you're trying to just conversate about or even just bring up. That is a red flag.
Yes, it is.
So difficulty or lack of communication is a red flag. You want to talk about the next one?
Yes, the lack one is inconsistency in their behavior. That could be extreme mood swings. That could be one way. One day you get one version of them. Another day you get another version of them. It could mean that when you're watching them interact with other people, they interact with you in one way, and then they interact with someone else in another way. Their reputation of what they're telling you and what you're seeing is not the same.
You know, we talk about it from the aspect of hot and cold. You may have seen some of the episodes where we talk about hot. We're talking about being honest, open, and transparent, which goes back to communication.
Yes.
And then cold, it stands for closed, obstinate, lazy, and dishonest. So if you find those things, if they're not hot, but you always see them being cold, that is definitely a red flag. So again, that's closed. Closed mean we're talking about they just don't give you anything in exchange and in return. You seem to be always the one inquiring or talking or trying to get to or initiating the connections. Obstinate is just plain old flat out being stubborn.
Yeah.
That's just a fancy way of saying they just stubborn.
Resistance to change.
Yeah, and this is their behavior. When you ever met someone who just say that's just the way I am?
Yeah.
Definitely a red flag. Lazy, you dated at the very beginning and you had good times and maybe some time has gone by, and the next thing you know, those things that you did, they just kind of stopped coming. We were just talking this morning. Renee asked me, what do you like to do for fun? What do you want to do for some fun? And we've been together a lot of years, and I had to sit back and think about it because the things that I did for fun when we first started dating, I could do, you know, even some of the physical attributes. I'm talking like if we went bowling or rollerblading or bicycling and all those things, or doing some of the more physically demanding things. That was one thing. But you know, as you get a little bit older, it becomes a little bit more challenging for you to do some of the things. So you have to reinvent some of the interests that you have and some of the things that you may want to do. So, but when I say that lazy, that means don't stop doing. That just means change what you're doing. Do new things. Do some other things that you both find mutually interesting so you can actually have fun and enjoy each other's company. But if you find yourself getting lazy and not even coming up with some things, that's another red flag. So that's actually a bonus red flag. And then flat out dishonesty, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in later in this chat.
Yeah. And so the next one is disrespectful behavior. And so how do you resolve? What do you do when someone is inconsistent in their behavior? The first thing you should do is you should bring it to their attention, because sometimes people do things and they don't realize it. The best thing to do when someone is being inconsistent in their behavior is to just not necessarily call them on the red carpet, just, you know, in a non-combative way. It's like, hey, I noticed some shifts in the way you know, something going on, you know, is there something, you know, ask questions, get to know, because a part of it is showing empathy for the other person and being available to them. And so that's one of the ways you combat that is hey, you know, I'm kind of noticing that there's a lot going, you know, that I see a change in your mood or your temperament. Is there something going on? Is there something I can help you with? You know, is this working for you? Is this not? Just ask questions, be inquisitive, get the information that you need so that you can make a decision based on facts and not on your or fiction or your imagination.
Right, and if that spills over into disrespectful behavior towards the other person, you definitely want to be mindful of, you deserve to be respected, and this goes both ways. If
Yeah.
you find that things that you have established as boundaries, however you want to describe them, are being constantly violated or overturned or overlooked, or this person isn't finding themselves trying to even change or even make the effort, that is definitely a red flag that you actually want to always be considering as a disrespect. And now part of it is, now you have to tell them, what do you consider disrespectful?
Yeah, because that could be different. Because for me, a tone, your tone, your volume, all of those can be considered disrespectful. So in the stage of you communicating and getting to know each other, establishing what is a boundary for you, you need to have spent enough time with yourself that you know what is considered disrespectful to you. You need to know that for you. That's not for someone else to set that for you. That's for you to know what is disrespect to you. And it's going to be different for each person.
Now, let me ask you a question. Would you find it disrespectful? Well, I couldn't do it because I notice and I see it. You may see it on television and you may see it in movies or whatever, or even out in real life, where I hear other women or other girls calling each other the B word.
No, that was a no for
Is
me.
that a disrespectful thing?
Oh, you know what?
Even from, not
that's
from
a
me,
trigger.
obviously.
That's a trigger for me. Because growing up, my mom was verbally abusive. So being called out of my name, especially the B word, that will bring up the old
How did
nature.
that even come about, where they start using that word as a one of endearment?
I
Talking
have
about that.
It's like, to me, everything that's good is bad and bad is good. Our society is kind of really twisted up. But for me, no, that's a no. And people who know me know that if you want me to be very upset, call me out of my name.
Yeah, that's not something.
That's not okay.
And even from the guy's perspective,
And it's not funny to me. It's not cute.
And from a guy's perspective, disrespect to him may be something that's just not a big deal to you. I can give you one as an example. When you belittle or berate a man and call him a boy, I don't know many men that will not find that disrespectful or treat them like a boy.
Yeah.
You treat them like a little boy, or talking down to them, or just more or less challenging their manhood, or saying you act like a child and things like that. You're going to find that, I would say, that is a standard line or standard sign of disrespect that most men will see and want to consider that. They will probably consider that a red flag on you.
Right.
So now this goes both ways.
Oh yeah.
Now
Women can be disrespectful, because a part of it is, another way that being disrespectful is not understanding the importance of submission. Submission is not something that has to be earned. It's not something that happens in marriage. Submission is that something that you both should bring to the relationship because of your relationship with God. And so we always go back to that, because at the foundation of all the things that we're talking about and we're, helping you to understand, we are a Christ-centered, biblically based, solution-oriented program, community. That's our beliefs. So that you have to understand that submission is a part of me submitting to God, me submitting to Gil, Gil submitting to God, Gil submitting to me, us submitting to each other.
Some things that you can also consider disrespectful is being rude.
Yes.
And being rude is not necessarily, it can be in behavior, it can be in words, it can
Body
be in
language.
actions, and it can be in body language. It can be in it can come a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself, whether you're on the receiving end or the giving end of that, that's something to be mindful, because this is list that we're kind of talking about. We're talking about the 10 signs or 10 warning signs.
Red flags.
Red flags that you are, especially when you're dating, to be aware of. If you find these are constantly coming up, or you're either experiencing them, or you can take some stock inside yourself and say, whoa, I may be doing some of this stuff. This is what this is all designed for.
Yeah.
This is why we put the book out of the
Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage.
This is why we put the book out, because while the Bible addresses everything, sometimes you just need it to be made plain and simple a little bit. And some people like lists. Just give them a list, and
let them see it.
Let them see it. It makes it a lot more tangible. It makes it a lot easier for them to actually see. Doesn't mean you have to beholden to the list,
right?
But be aware of the list can definitely be an asset and a benefit to you in the long run. So that was number 3.
Okay,
now,
so sidebar.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we love to watch dating shows. And one of the shows we really love to watch is Love is Blind.
Okay.
And the next thing I'm going to talk about, we were watching the episode, and I introduced Jackie to Love is Blind. She never watched it before. She watched her first episode. She was like, oh my gosh, it's nothing like what I thought. And so the next one, another one of the red flags is always talking about yourself.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so if I were to say, well, you know, I really don't want people to think of me as being wealthy, and all you talk about is your money. I'm giving you an example of what is talking about yourself. It doesn't just have to be talking about yourself. It can be talking about your accomplishments. It can be talking about your pet. It can be talking about, there's lots of ways you can only talk about yourself. And that's one of the red flags you have to be aware of, because in a relationship, it's not going to just be me. I always say, for me, the people in my life, I'm so grateful for the people in my life, because you can't always be the star. Sometimes you have to be able to play a different role. And so if in relationships, you have to be the one, if in relationships, if you have to always be the star, you have to always be the center of attention, you're the center of the conversation, you have to lead the conversation. If someone else says something, you got to one up them. That is a red flag that you don't have room in your life for someone else.
Right. And you'll find this is a common thread with people who are self-centered. You may get an indication of self-centeredness is meaning, like Renee has kind of talked about, someone is always talking about themselves in some capacity, in some way, shape, form, or fashion. They always bring the conversation back
to themselves. No matter what it is, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I was fishing yesterday and I went fishing and I caught a fish. Oh yeah, I went fishing last week and I caught a.
I did it in the Cayman Islands. I did it in the Cayman Islands on this boat. You know, we did DC fishing. You know, it could be anything.
It's like, could it just be my turn? Why do it only have to be your turn? So that's another one of the red flags, is that you're always talking about yourself.
Number 5 of this list we're talking about, just like talking about themselves, they avoid personal topics. When I say a personal topics, you're dating someone, that should be the time where you're getting to know them.
I have a good example.
Hold on. Okay. Not getting to know them in the capacity of finding out who they are as a person. You know, yes, you're going to probably be physically attracted to them first, visually. You know, that's usually the first thing that goes both ways, him to her and her to him, where you're visually attracted. Something about them caught your initial attention. But then you maybe started dating and things like that, and you start talking and
spending time together.
Yeah, and they talk about themselves. But this is another one where they avoid personal things about themselves. It could be for a lot of different reasons, but it's not like you're giving them the third degree or you are interrogating them. Not like that. But you're talking about them because you want to get to know them. That's a difference when, especially now, we're talking about dating. We're not talking about someone who you've known for years and years and years. Now, if you know somebody for years and years and years and they don't even want to talk about anything personal, that's definitely a red flag. But especially when you're just dating and getting started. But you said you had an example.
A perfect example of not wanting to answer personal questions. One of the questions that I think that is so important for us all to be able to answer about ourselves is, what is your biggest growth area? Because when we were doing this, we're at an interview and we were doing the book signing in Ohio, and we were talking about this list, and I asked Gil, what's one of the things on this list of 10 red flags are something that you struggle with? So to me, even with this list of these 10 red flags, you should know yourself well enough to know, of these red flags, what are the ones that you struggle with? Because the part of being a healthy human being is knowing your growth areas and knowing your strengths, knowing the areas where you struggle. And so a personal question would be asking something like, you know, what's your biggest growth area?
Or you should know. Yeah. Or even just like this, you can use the list and the things that we're sharing with you today and say, what is the thing that sticks out for me? You know,
me, not about somebody else,
not about somebody you're dating. So the first one was lack of communication. The second was inconsistent behavior. The third one was disrespectful behavior. The fourth one was talking about themselves. And then the fifth one, which we just kind of addressed and talked about, was avoiding personal topics. So if you find those things on that list, those are the first 5. Compare yourself to that list and think about it. How am I stacking up, or am I a red flag when it comes to that? So you want to share number 6?
Number 6 is overly passive?
Overly passive or possessive or jealous behavior.
Oh. And see, you know, when we were growing up, I really think that a lot of us, because we maybe had unhealthy relationships, we thought that it was cute when, girl, he want to know where I'm at all day. He don't let me do nothing. He don't let me go nowhere. That is, you are not an object. You are not a possession. No one should try to possess you. No one should try to control you. You're not an object. You're an individual. You're a human being. And so when someone wants to know your every whereabout, they want to know everything about you. They want to put a tracker on your phone, and you know, that is a major red flag. And sometimes if you didn't have a healthy grown up environment, you can see that as positive, but it's not positive for someone to want to possess you.
And the reason why we put these two together with the overly possessive behavior and the jealousy, because they're probably not far from separated from each other. You're probably going to see one or the other when you see one out. You usually see both of them together when you see one.
Yeah.
So if somebody who's jealous, they probably are overly possessive, and somebody who's overly possessive usually gets jealous pretty easy. And this is a sign of controlling behavior.
It is.
And that's something that you definitely want to be mindful of. And it's weird because I believe you can see that more now with women going towards guys.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I want your passcode to your phone. I want you to call me every hour. If I call you and text you, the extreme of you can't reach someone. If you can't reach someone like 500 times a day, that's obsessive.
If you're calling somebody 500 times a day,
200 or
a
20
lot,
or 30, you know, and so we're talking about having realistic, healthy expectations in relationships. And so to be able to feel that you should be able to know their every whereabout at every minute, my whole thing is this: if I can't trust you when I don't see you, then that is a me issue. You shouldn't be with someone that you don't feel like you can trust. You have to know their every whereabouts and be with them every second of the day.
And I think it's important that as you're dating and getting to know each other, and I thought about that when it came to us, when we were dating and getting to know each other and we spent a lot of time together, the more time and the more assurance that you have about your relationship, the more comfortable you're going to be, and you're going to find that you're not going to be possessive because you're comfortable and confident and secure in the relationship that you
I know
actually
you
have.
mine.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you know I'm yours.
So, number 7, unwilling to compromise.
Yeah.
You're going to find in relationships there always is going to be compromise from the day you started dating all the way to if you're been as long together as long as we have, which is coming up on 36 years next month or longer. You're going to always be compromising.
Yeah, not compromising your values and your integrity. It's compromising, we'll say it's adjusting your expectation. It's your willingness, and we were talking about it this morning. I don't believe the relationships are give and take. I believe that a relationship is two givers coming together to give, and then as you give to each other, your needs will be met. If you see it as give and take, you feel like you're losing something. But I'm coming to give. I'm coming to serve. I'm coming to love. And therefore, I'm not doing it to expect it. I'm doing it because God gives me so much. He pours so much into me that I'm going to share that with the person that's the closest to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So as you think about those things, that unwillingness to compromise is going to be a big obstacle if you find that you're just immovable. It just always got to be your way. All of these things, you'll see that there's kind of intertwined together. If somebody is giving you one red flag, more than likely they have some other ones that kind of are connected to it.
One or two red flags doesn't mean you should cut off a relationship, because we're human and we're growing. And like a lot of these red flags are things you can communicate and work through. Some of them are character issues, and that's what you need to be aware of.
Right.
Another one that's important to be number 8 is a negative attitude.
Or we mentioned it earlier about a red flag when we were dating. This one was mine, pessimism.
Pessimistic.
Being very pessimistic when it comes to certain things. If you always find yourself, like I did, and that was a flaw in me, and or a growth area, like we like to say, in me, I think growing up, where if you've been disappointed a lot,
Yeah.
and as you were growing up, you tend to find that that glass is half empty, or you're going to always be disappointed, or things are never going to work out, or something is always going to go wrong, or things are going to happen. That it can spill over into your relationships as you go through life, and you'll always look at it from that perspective. I thank God for my relationship with the Lord, because that was one thing that literally has changed in my life, because it gives you a hope. The opposite of pessimism is hope. When you have a different aspect when it comes to those things that you seem to be constantly disappointed about. I never find a good person. I never find somebody who's going to love me for me. Or in this instance that we're talking about it from the dating cycle, that doesn't have to be your story.
Right.
But it definitely doesn't have to be your perspective. If you find that that's your perspective, you may want to start looking and relying on some of the hope that you have on the inside of you, that you do deserve to find somebody that is going to be good for you and good to you. So that's one of the things. But if you find that this is a red flag in the person, I thank God that Renee stuck it out with me, and didn't say, you know what, you too pessimistic for me. You always just, but see, that comes with grace, and that comes with some of the other aspects of relationships, to where nobody's going to be perfect, and everybody's going to have some red flags, but it's just knowing them and be willing to deal with them and address them, especially not from her tolerating it. But if I had that pessimistic or that negative attitude perspective, and I never changed over these 35 years, it's going to be a big problem. That deserves to be a red flag with her, for me, so that's just something I wanted to share.
You just had so many green flags that your few little red flags are just, the green outweigh the red.
And that's probably a good summary point, when it comes to some of the things
that
we're actually talking about.
A history of failed relationships.
Number 9.
This is a really big one now. This is something that one of my friends, Jackie, she said this to me. She said, I'm always leery of women when they don't have any female friends. Or when people don't have any friends. Or you can't get along. It's like...
Jackie's so friendly, but anyway.
Yeah, Jackie is Miss Congeniality. But a part of this understanding that if life is about relationships. I think about in this past few weeks about how many people I got to see and spend time with, and people that I know from high school, and people that I've known since they were in college, and people that are a part of our family. No one is going to have every relationship in your family be resolved and reconciled and great. But if you have no one, when someone says I don't have anybody, there's that's really normally a me problem. Everybody can't be wrong. And so sometimes all of these red flags that we've not addressed and unpacked in our own self make it really hard for us to have relationships with other people, because relationships require communication. They require that you think about somebody. There's so many things about relationships that make us better, that when you meet someone who, especially if it's different when you're younger, but as you get older, if you've gone your whole life and you have no relationships, then that's something to really be aware of. And I always say, guys who don't treat their mom well probably won't treat you well either.
Sure. And when we talk about a history of failed relationships, this is focused primarily on the dating cycle, but if you see, this is going to probably be a common thread throughout all the relationships. They have disagreements with friends, they have disagreements with coworkers, they have disagreements with family.
That they don't resolve, because it's one thing you can have a disagreement with someone, and some relationships are worth fighting for, and if both people are willing to work for it. And in some relationships, you have to realize that not all relationships you can have forgiveness without reconciliation. We have to understand that life is about, not that me and you don't ever disagree. You disagree, but how do you resolve them? How do you work through them? But both people have to want to do that. So if they have a history of relationships that are unresolved or reconciled, just all of them, then that, I would say, that's a major red flag.
Yeah, and this is the word of the day and the word of the I won't say of the year or last year or whatever, but I heard it a lot. Toxicity and those types of things. If someone is constantly using that word, more than likely
they may be the one that's toxic.
It's almost like if someone is constantly using the word toxic,
everybody can be toxic,
especially in the context of relationships, it's probably because they have a lot of failed relationships.
Yeah, and that go back to the pessimistic, a negative. If you have a negative attitude, you're going to see everything through the glass as half empty, versus seeing that, well, yeah, people are human, they make mistakes. Extend grace. So if there's a constant history of every failed relationships, that is a major red flag.
And then finally, for number 10, there is a big pressure for you to make a commitment. Make a commitment.
Hi, I just met you. Let's get married. Hi, I just met you.
And it's not funny, but you find that if you find that you're pushing it too fast, to get to the point to where, whether it's a biological clock ticking, or you tired of being alone, or you tired of just failed relationships and those types of things, but you find that the next person you get with is like, let's make a commitment.
And another way that someone could be pressuring you for commitment is to be physical. If I just met you, I don't know you. We were talking about relationship hygiene. It is not healthy for you to say, how you doing, let's have sex. Someone who wants that type of commitment from you that fast, or any type of physical or financial or commitment, hey, can we move in? Hey, can I borrow your car? Those are all commitments that you should make over time, because you need to see someone in different seasons and stages before you start making commitments to them. How could you commit to somebody you don't know?
Right. And that can be very challenging for you if you feel the pressure, but you also can be on the other end of that, where if you're the person that is initiating, you giving the pressure that, hey, or you find, I hear this, I seen this in a movie we were watching the other night, like trying to put a label or a name on the relationship. Okay, you just met someone and you've been dating a couple times.
Like, am I your girlfriend?
Why do you have to define what the relationship is?
Am I your fiance?
Yeah.
It's like, I just say hi.
Tell me that's not pressure if you're on the receiving end of that.
Yes.
If you have seen that or
We've
even experienced that, put that in the chat. Have you been on the receiving end of someone putting pressure on you to make a commitment to them? That's a definite red flag of someone maybe a little self-focused. It kind of goes back to the one we kind of already talked about, number 4, constantly talking about themselves, that kind of thing. That self-centeredness, that kind of puts a unnecessary pressure on the relationship that it may not be able to withstand if you make a commitment too soon.
Yeah, because one of the things that I can say when Gil and I were dating, that he made me feel safe. I could be myself. We were watching the interview. There were a couple there talking about, when you find that person, you can just be yourself. That doesn't mean that I'm not being kind, and I can be me.
Right.
That's important. It's important to be able to find a safe space, and even with the people you're in relationships with, even not just dating, with your friends, it's important that you give people the genuine, authentic version of yourself.
Right.
And when you can't do that, and then they fall in love with or decide they want to be friends with that person, then guess what? That's not who you are. And so the reason why we want to show you and go over these 10 red flags is because so many times we get in a relationship and we don't realize, oh my gosh, how did I get here? You got here because you ignored all of these signs. And that's why we talk about in the book the difference between dating and going out. It should be a progression. It's going to take time. Relationships should grow and flourish like a plant, not that you pop it in the microwave. Because if you don't allow it to have a healthy amount of time to grow and flourish, there's going to be some things you're going to miss.
And while this list, like we said at the very beginning, is not all inclusive, there may be other things that you've recognized and you've seen. This is just to give you a snapshot and an idea that we put in the book, the Singles Blueprint, to kind of give you a gauge for our singles that we've been talking to over the years, and maybe we have just thought about it and said, you know what, let's give them something that they can use as a guide,
a compass.
It's something to use that they can say, hey, this is something that I can be mindful about as I'm dating or I'm navigating the dating cycle, to be aware of, maybe you're going to forget because you have these rose-colored glasses on because you feel that this may be the one. Well, the red flags are not an all-inclusive list that says if you see one or two that it's like a time to move on. No, it's just to make you aware of what's the real lay of the land as it relates to your relationship.
And it's primarily designed for you to make sure you're not a red flag. This book is not about how to find Mr. or Mrs. Right. This book is how to become the best version of yourself so you can give yourself to someone else. One of the things that I love, you know, there's scriptures in here, there's Bible verses, but if I were a single and I'm trying to go on this journey of discovering myself, Proverbs is such a good place to kind of gain wisdom, because in the Hebrew culture, in order to get wisdom, they use the book of Proverbs.
Right.
And so Proverbs is a really good place to go to gather principles and understanding about yourself and in relationships. And so in addition to using the book of Proverbs, you could also use the Singles Blueprint, because it'll help you to kind of think about things you may have never thought about. You know, and so if you guys are watching now or watching later, please put your questions, put your comments in the chat. Subscribe to our channel. I was looking at our analytics. A great deal of you guys are watching, and we love you, and thank you for watching, and thank you for commenting. But please subscribe, because when you subscribe and you comment, that allows YouTube to know that this is something that other people should be watching. And so we appreciate you guys watching, and we appreciate you guys joining us in different cities. The next city we'll be in is Montgomery, Alabama. We're going to be at Sweet Creek at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, and we're also going to be from 2 to 4 we'll be at Sweet Creek, and from 5 to 7 we'll be with the Beautiful Boutique. The location is to be determined, but I would love to meet you guys in person and connect with you and let you guys get your own signed copy of the Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage. And we are so excited about serving you. We hope that this time we've spent together with you all has been beneficial. We hope that it's been encouraging. And thank you guys for watching and commenting. And if you guys have any more questions, please put them in the chat. Please reach out to us at help@richrelationshiprefuge.com, or you can go to our website at richrelationshiprefuge.com, or you can leave comments on our YouTube channel or any other social media platform so that we can connect with you and let us know how we can better serve you.
So remember, guys, we are stronger together. Thanks for hanging out with us on this beautiful Saturday. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys.
We are, oh, mwah. Oh, he asked to kiss me this time, y'all. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. We are in day 14, and we are growing and learning and getting stronger, and we are so 14 of the 21-day prayer and fasting, just so you guys know. But we are excited about this episode. Today's episode
Before we jump into today's episode,
what?
I got a disclaimer.
Okay.
You might see something kind of consistent but different. We are not endorsed by any professional organizations.
Oh yeah, Detroit.
We're not endorsed by anybody. We just fans, and we repping our team for tonight's game.
Oh, it's tonight?
It's tonight.
Oh, I thought it was tomorrow.
So we are just showing our support.
We are from the 313.
And
we are both born and raised in Detroit.
And if you are anti
Detroit Lions,
then please don't click off. Still hang out with us. We ain't gonna take it against you or anything like that. We're not gonna. So we just saying that just because we just don't want any problems with our video still going out.
Oh, it's gonna go out.
It's gonna go out, but we just want to let y'all know, as they say in those disclaimers, the express written opinions of the hosts are theirs and theirs alone, and no representation of any organization. I know that sounds crazy, but in this day and times, you gotta protect yourself. So I'm just gonna put that out there, cause I'm fearful of what that could happen. But no, that kind of goes into what we're talking about today.
Okay, so today's episode is fear or love. What is the foundation that you are building your relationships on? And who would want to build a relationship on fear? You'd be like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Well, we're going to start off with fear. And
why start off with the fear?
Because, you know, people say you got good news and bad news. What you want first? If you got a choice between good news and bad news, which would you like to have first? You want the good news first, or you want the bad news first? What you want, babe?
We can start out with the challenging stuff.
I'd rather start off with the challenging stuff because you're going to remember what we say last. And so we're going to start off
That's
with...
a good way to put it, so we can end on a good note.
Yeah,
I can relate to that.
positive.
Yeah.
So you got to take the castor oil, and then after the castor oil, they give you some orange or something delicious to wash away the flavor.
And the reason why we are talking about love and fear...
It's from our book.
It's from our book. It's over there, but you can see it probably behind us, but it's from the Marital Code to Oneness.
Yes.
And it's about love and fear because you really don't think about it as they are connected as far as building your relationship on. That's why we call it love or fear based on where you're at in the relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's first, let's talk about what fear is. You know, as believers, we believe fear is false evidence appearing real. But
that's a way of looking at it. We're going to give you some acronyms today, so hold on, y'all. You ready to write these down? We do acronyms and stuff like that a lot because it helps you to remember the details.
It does.
But go ahead. False evidence appearing real.
But there are two legitimate fears that we are born with. That God, because fear can protect you as well. Mm-hmm. And so the two legitimate fears that God gave us that we're born with is the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. For those of you who have boys, you probably think that they don't have those fears, but they do. Because boys are not afraid of climbing and jumping, and they're super loud. But they are. So we're all born with those two fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And so where do the other fears that we get, where do they come from? I mean, how does it become a part of the way we live life in relationships and how we live life in work and play and just in every aspect of our life? It can come from our childhood. It can come from society. It could come from experiences. It could come from our own human natural insecurities. And so if you're hearing all of this, I guess you would say, no, I don't want to build my relationship on fear. But I think sometimes we are, because we don't understand that if fear and love are the root, then what happens when something has a root, then it has fruit. And so for those of you who are believers, you probably already gone to where I'm going, is that, well, what is the evidence or the manifestation of fear? Mm-hmm. And how does that affect us in our relationship?
And we're going to give you some things that actually talk about it today. And we're going to start out with some things that can create barriers in your relationship, especially when it comes to fear. And Renee kind of mentioned it just now, a few minutes ago. Now, insecurity. We talked a little bit about it last week. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but when you think about insecurity, we all have them. You know, some are more prevalent than others in individuals, and some people tend to be holding to them and feel like they're in bondage to them. But you don't have to be, but it can be something that has spilled over into your relationship and created insecurities in how you feel about your significant other or your husband, your wife, based on, like Renee mentioned at the beginning, past experiences, you know, childhood of origin things that happened to you in the past, and it can bring into your present relationship and therefore cause barriers to be built up. We always tell our couples, it's almost like having bricks. And every time you have a barrier or something that happens, you're stacking a brick up in between us right here to where we are so isolated that we can't be a partner in this relationship because we have barriers that have been set up, that we have set up. And sometimes your spouse can set up theirs. It's almost like having those two walls, and it can be a hindrance to the relationship, and it can be something that is going to cause a problem. And that usually stems from our fears.
And you know what? And you wouldn't think of insecurity as being a part of fear. But I think about when we first got married, I was extremely insecure. And as a result of being...
But why was that when you think?
Because I had low self-esteem. And that came from the things I was told.
Right.
You know, we always talk about that. The 3 questions you need to ask yourself. Who told you that? How do you make people feel? And who told you that? How do you make people feel? It's 3 of them. And right now my brain is on fast.
She's all
over my brain. But
that's okay.
It's important for us to understand that the things that we bring to our relationship that are obstacles, or we talk about the difference between luggage and baggage, is that if I'm insecure, no matter what Gil does or says, I am going to always not believe him. And so the reason why this is important to not build your life on it. Hi, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Miss Kemp.
The reason why it's important for you not to build your life on it is because if you build your life on fear and insecurities, it's going to, again, keep each other from getting close to each other.
Right.
And I think about how hard it was in the beginning, and it affects every facet of relationship. It's hard to get close to someone when they don't feel good about themselves.
Wow.
It affects our ability to be emotionally intimate, spiritually intimacy, and even have communication. Because if I'm insecure and I'm feeling bad about myself, no matter what you say, and one of the things the Lord showed me was that I had to begin to say about myself what he said about me. Because if he's saying to me, beautiful daughter, come to me, and I'm saying, ugly fat girl, we're going to miss each other.
Right.
And so until you begin to confront those insecurities and be honest about, even though you love each other, it doesn't mean you're building your relationship on love.
Right. And that kind of spills into what you already mentioned. It was one word that you mentioned during what you were just talking about as I was listening to you, was doubt.
Yeah.
That doubt is another barrier that comes into your relationship that can cause these blocks to be built up. And when you think about that, it is actually going to hinder any kind of progression that you're going to have in the relationship.
Yeah. And so it's just important that when you're thinking about what are you building, we're talking today about love or fear. What is the foundation that you're building your relationship on? How many of you would want to build your relationship on fear?
And sometimes you are doing it unintentionally.
Right. And you don't
may
know
not.
it.
Yeah, you may never be aware that, am I really doing that? And that's why we give you lists and acronyms and all these different things that you can go back and do that self-assessment on, that you can say, hey, is this me, and am I doing this, or how do I actually play into my relationship with when it comes to these obstacles or barriers, or we call them growth areas in our relationship.
And one of the things, like in our community, we've had people who've been asking questions and, well, what do you do when the other person, you're doing everything you can do and you're working on everything and the other person is not? Well, then the question I would have, if you're doing everything you can do, then the only person you have control over is you.
Right.
But if we're building our relationship on love, you're going to have a different perspective than if you're building a relationship on fear. Because what building a relationship on fear looks like is the person that you're with presently doesn't get the opportunity to disappoint you or fail you, because you're still holding on to who disappointed you and failed you before.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're building a relationship on fear, it's really about you building everything that happens. So every day, the Bible says his mercies are new every day. And so therefore, each day, Gil gets to experience a new version of me. Gil is reading the comments.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, put them in there, because we're going to try to blend them into the conversation that we're having, because we know you guys can't actually verbalize it, but we're going to pick up those beneficial comments that we believe everybody can glean something from. Thank you. Keep putting them in there. Go ahead.
Yeah,
man.
thank you. And so it's just important that we understand that through this process of, because when people say, oh, you guys have such a great relationship and, I wish I could have that, or I can't have that. Everyone can have a God-honored relationship.
Oh, yeah.
But so many times we don't know what that looks like. Well, how do you do that? And so we want to make sure that we give you the tools, the insight, and the information, and the biblical application of what it looks like to have a God-honoring relationship. And so that just something as simple as, because sometimes we get so caught up in all of the little symptoms that we lose sight of the fact that if you know that in order to have a healthy, enjoyable, fulfilling marriage, it has to be built on love, you check yourself every day. It's like, well, wait a minute, is this love or is this fear?
Right.
And, and another thing to think about, some of the fruits of or the evidence of building your life on fear is a lack of trust.
Oh, yeah.
Anxiety, a lot of the things that we attribute to our mental health is a result of us building our life on fear. And so we have to be very mindful of where are we getting our sources of information, and are we giving the people in our life the best version of ourselves, or are we giving them the version of ourselves that was hurt from the day before?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when you think about what Renee was just saying, some of the barriers when it comes to your mental state, think of AIDS, AIDS, or just AID, anxiety, isolation, depression.
Yes.
Those things can actually build that barrier, be a part of the barrier that is causing the hindrances that happen in your relationship, and you may not be aware of where the source of this thing is because you have just lived life or experienced things, and when they happen to you, you have a natural response and a reaction to them that has been and become a habit for us. So when you think about the habits that we have established, if they're built out of fear, it's going to be something that is always ever present, always coming around, and always there when you have those relationship hindrances that actually come up.
I love when you said that, made that an acronym, because just like there's fruit from love, there's evidence from fear. And those things you named, we have to look at it. Am I isolating myself? Am I anxious? Say them again, babe.
8.
Yeah.
Anxiety, isolation, depression.
Yeah. And so we have to understand that, and there are more, and we'll put those in the show notes, because just like because most of us know the fruits of the Spirit. And Galatians 5 is great, because Galatians 5 gives you a clear path of walking in the Spirit and walking in the flesh. So for those of us who are believers, we know that we're supposed to walk in the Spirit and not in the flesh, but we're talking about it from the perspective of, are we living our life on fear? Are we living our life on love? And so we want to help you to understand what that looks like. And so
we appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I like the comments, the positive ones we actually love. Yes, actually put them in there and be positive with them, because this is actually building and helping the community at large. The ones that are just nonsense and don't really make sense, we just ignore. So one of the things that we just want to say, thanks for greeting, thanks for hanging out with us on this Saturday of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee, that we're actually talking about love and fear. This actually is from the book. You can probably see it behind us there, The Marital Code to Oneness. So we're talking about fear first, because we're going to give you one scripture that you can use at the very end. And I'm going to read it to you from a version that I read as we were studying and preparing for this. I was thinking, man, this is awesome. When you have a list, people talk about the Bible not giving you answers when you need it. We can have a list that you can use in the Bible that you can compare to yourself and into your relationship to say, wow, this is how I should be building love on my relationship. So, but we're talking about fear, though, when it comes to this first barrier, or when it comes into, when you talk about relationship, uncommunicated expectations. Why is this so big? Because we all have them. I don't care what stage and age and grace and period of life that you come from. We have these things that make sense in our mind, but when we pull them into our relationships, if we have not talked about them or communicated to the person that is in the relationship with us, it can be a barrier that is hindering, and therefore that is built out of fear.
And another thing is not being afraid to communicate that you're afraid. And I know that it's probably easier, I won't say it's easier for women, because another one of the big elements, okay, if we're going to talk about fear, another one of the driving forces in fear is pride. I'm going to pause, because we don't realize how much pride hinders us from really having healthy relationships. What does pride look like in a relationship? Oh, well, I would really like to let them know that I want to spend more time with them, and I need their words of affirmation, but I ain't gonna say nothing because they should just know. That is pride, or you know what? I think I'm gonna get up this morning and make his coffee,
or her coffee,
or I don't want to do that because I don't want them to think I'm weak. When you start talking yourself out of doing things that would benefit someone else and not just you, check it. It's fear and pride.
It's amazing how pride manifests in relationships in so many different ways. We just talked about just 5 of them that they look like. Pride is the source, but what does it look like in action? It looks like insecurity. It looks like isolation. It looks like anxiety. It looks like doubt. It looks like depression. It looks like uncommunicated expectation. It has all these different facets that when we think about it, it is the source that is hindering our relationship from growing, that is built on fear when it comes to our relationships.
And we are not saying that depression is not real.
Oh,
because
it is
it is
real.
very real. And there are clinical reasons why you struggle with depression. There are spiritual reasons why you struggle with depression. And there are life cycles because your hormones change. So we're not saying that depression as a whole is a result of fear, but they're rooted in all the things that we go through. Everything that we go through has an origin. And so if we could go to the origin of it, and sometimes you think about it, are you focusing too much on yourself? Are you focusing on what you don't have control over? Are you focused on what the other person? So sometimes our anxiety and our depression is self-created by what we watch, what we listen to, and what we are putting in our bodies. All of those things have an effect on you. So, because I believe that depression is one of the cycles of grief. And when you get married, there's some things that you're going to have to let go of. And so therefore that's a loss. So in the beginning of your marriage, you may feel this feeling of depression, or you may feel this feeling of because you're having to let go of some things. And so it's just a matter of being honest with you. It's like, hey, I'm really scared. When we got married, we were 21 and we moved from Detroit, Michigan, where I had lived my whole life, to Minot, North Dakota, where there was like...
I'm sorry, I did that too.
It's okay. I mean, but it was, I didn't even think about it though.
Yeah.
Because I was building my life on love. I didn't think about what I was going to lose. I didn't think about the fact that I was going to be able, because at the time we weren't vegan. I was thinking about family. I was thinking about the things that I wouldn't be able to do and places I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes we have like glimpses where we walk and we live our life on love, and then but for the most part, it's more human nature and it's more natural to live your life on fear. But in order to get a different result, you have got to do something different. And so we want to make sure that we're not just giving you this pie in the sky idea of that the fact that our relationship is just wonderful because we just wake up like that every day.
Right.
No, there's some internal things we have to do in our mind, in our spirit, in our heart. And then there's some emotional things we have to do to really reconcile. And so being with another person for the rest of your life takes the thing that we talked about before, and it's selflessness.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're building your life on fear, you don't realize that every little thing is intensified.
Yep.
Because if you're holding an account, it's like, so if you're keeping a tally of everything that person has done wrong to disappoint you, it's not going to last. And I'm not saying that, because one of the young ladies, someone put in the comments, and it's like, I prayed for her and I'm praying. We are not talking about that you make accommodations for abuse.
No.
Physical, verbal, emotional abuse is not biblical. It's not acceptable. And so, no, Gil has never hit me. I have never hit him. We don't put our hands on each other. And so those are not, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about, that you don't talk about what's going on, that you overlook or that you dismiss. No, we're talking about being open and honest with each other about what's going on in your heart. And sometimes that means that if I'm afraid or if I'm insecure, the person I'm going to tell is going to be my husband.
Yeah.
And that's how you get to be, that's how you grow close. That's how you become one, not by just telling the other people around you, but the person that's closest to you should know your fears, your dreams, your hopes, your insecurities. I mean, anything that's in your heart that you don't unpack and you don't share, because we always say, whatever you don't talk out, you are going to act it out.
Yep.
So please, in your relationship, the reason why so many of our marriages fail is because we were never really taught about being vulnerable. We were not taught about being available. We're not taught about being honest. And we can be sharp and mean, but we can't be vulnerable and soft. Yeah. And I think that's another one of those evidence or the fruit of living your life and building your own fear.
Right. And so when you think about it, it is something that you have to gauge and you have to look at when it comes to your relationship. It's always that self-assessment that you're actually doing. You made one point in there that is so true, and somebody put a negative comment in there, and it kind of spills into the fear side of things, is when you're afraid to be vulnerable to your partner or your spouse because you're fearful of how they're going to perceive it. That goes back to pride.
It does.
It goes back to you having those insecurities, those doubts, those things that are not going to be beneficial to you in the relationship because you thinking it is something that's going to be a hindrance.
Right.
So we got another acronym for you that we used in one of the teachings that we did a while back on.
I love this one.
It's called CODE. This is a fear gauge that you can use. It's 3 letters, COLD.
Yes.
And it stands for closed, obstinate, lazy, and dishonest. You look at that. If you say, am I showing or displaying one of these 4 attributes when it comes to my relationship and how it actually does? Yes, Sandra, just like you're saying there, it's a self-assessment.
It is.
People do not like doing self-assessments. Why? Because you cannot look outside of yourself when you're doing that self-assessment and point at somebody else as being the source and the cause for why you are the way that you are. When we talk about being closed, obstinate, lazy, and dishonest, this is when you're building your relationship on fear that you can say, am I doing that? When we talk about being closed, I'll start out with closed. Closed is just you, just like we said, being open and vulnerable and having that emotional intimacy that you desire, but you keep it to yourself.
Yeah, when you're closed.
When you're closed off from your partner and you don't want to tell them the things that are concerns to you, things that are goals to you, things that are a part of who you are as an individual, that's
things you don't like.
Yeah, those are things that you're closing yourself off to this person, and you have to ask and go back to say, why do I do that? So part of it is closed. Next one is obstinate. If that's a word that you're like, what? That's probably like one of them old school words that they saying. Then a better way to put it is stubborn.
Yes.
You want to talk about that one?
Yes. And I think sometimes we don't realize that our inability to be open to someone telling us something that they don't like. A part of being obstinate is, this is how I am, you just got to accept me like this.
Just deal with it.
Yeah, and it's not realistic to think that everything about you is something that someone else wants. And so when you're being obstinate, you're not flexible, you're not teachable, you can't be told good or bad. You know, and so these are things we have to be examining our hearts for and look for. And I know sometimes as women, we make it seem as if someone's hurting our feelings when they're telling us something about us that we already know. It shouldn't hurt your feelings when someone tells you something and you already know it. If anything, the response should be, so what does it look like to not be obstinate is, you know what, thank you for telling me that. And Gil always says it, okay, I don't like the way that felt, but the rule we talk about in our marriage, I know he has my back. So if he's saying something to me that he needs from me or something that he would like to see change in me, then that's for both of our good.
Right.
Because I can see, and you can examine yourself all you want to, there's still going to be areas of your life that you cannot see. I can't see my back, but he can. And so a part of this living your life, not living your life on fear, is being open to someone giving you the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. It can't just be that they're going to tell you how wonderful you are. You have to be open to the person that you're spending your life with telling you sometimes, you know, you need to work on that.
Right. And if you have those things that you're looking at from being obstinate or stubborn, and we find that this happens a lot in some of our older couples or older that we've seen, I'm just the way that I am and it's too late to change.
It's never too late.
Never too late. If you want to have a blessed relationship, if you don't, if you want to stay single, be single, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't think that you're not going to change when you've been in a relationship. We've been in a relationship together for 38 years and 36 years married. as far as we just celebrated our last anniversary. And for me, or even Renee, to think that I'm never going to change, or I don't want to change, or I don't have to change, that's going to be a very short-lived relationship or marriage.
And ladies, let me give you a secret. The best way to make the people around you change is for you to change. Because one of the things the Lord showed me is when I learned to control myself, everyone around me changed. It's not about you, because I think a part of the problem, I think as believers, I think we talk too much. I think we tell people what to do, we talk about it, we preach about it, we sing about it. Why don't we start showing people what to do? That's a part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing. We're showing you. We're not just reading a book to you. We're showing you. And so I think it's important that we realize that we have to make sure, as trainers like to say, we got to eat our own dog food. As believers, we got to make sure that the scriptures and the Bible and the principles are what we are living, not just talking about it. And so a part of that is being open to realizing that the Bible says, fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not. And so why would he say fear not if we're supposed to be living in fear? So I think this is going to help a lot of couples to realize that maybe the reason why your relationship is struggling is because you have built it on an unsolid, unreliable foundation, which is fear.
Yes, and lazy. So that's the L in cold, lazy. Another way to look at it is complacent. Mm-hmm. We've been together as long as we have, and if you get complacent in your relationship, you can best believe you're going to have struggles. Mm-hmm. Complacency is thinking that you don't have to continue to do or be reinventing or continue to do things that is going to keep your partner interested, or your husband and your wife. Sometimes we think, I got it like that, or I'm good based on what I did last year, or what I did at the very beginning of the relationship.
Tell them about the points.
All points expire at midnight. I don't care what you did during the day. I don't care what gifts you did. I don't care what words you used. I don't care how much you appreciated or that person appreciated what you did. Your points expire at midnight and you got to start all over again.
And another thing that we think is important to understand is I cannot tell myself that I am a good wife.
Mm-mm. I can't say I'm a good husband.
The only person that can tell me that I'm a good wife is the person I'm married to. Your girlfriends can't tell you you're a good wife. Your mama, your daddy. The only person that can tell you that you are a good wife is the person that you are a wife to. So check in and ask, hey babe, how am I doing?
Yep.
How is your love tank? You know, I know Gil's love language is quality time. So therefore, I got to check in. Babe, I give you enough time.
Yeah, I know Renee's words of affirmation. If I'm not affirming her and re-encouraging her and telling her how good of a job she's doing in whatever area, then you're going to have those struggles.
Yeah. And so being lazy is not just, and you can be lazy emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually. Because Gil and I, while we've been on this fast, he was like, baby, why? I feel so good. Why did we stop doing this? I said, because we lazy.
Or complacent.
It's human nature for us to drift. It's human nature for us to do the minimum. It's human nature for us to want to get a lot and give a little.
Right.
But when you live your life with that as your standard, you're not going to benefit from, you're not going to have abundance when you're giving the minimum.
And then the last one in cold is dishonest.
Wow.
And that's pretty self-explanatory, but we're specifically talking about in the context of your relationship is when you're not honest with the person that you're in relationship with. How you doing? Fine. But you're really not fine.
Yeah.
You mad? Nope. You're really mad about something, but you don't want to be honest about what it is. One, because you want to hold this person, I call it emotionally hostage, to begging and groveling at you to get your forgiveness for whatever may have happened, whatever transgression that may have happened. Yeah. That is something that you have to be honest, not only with yourself about, first being clear about what am I really upset about or what am I mad about, as in an example of conflict, But what is it that really bugs me or bothers me that my person did that I have to communicate to them to come to a resolution and come to a peace?
Yeah. And there's other ways that you can be dishonest. Another way that you can be dishonest is by not giving all of the information.
Omission.
Yes. And so because you didn't tell them everything is not the same as you being honest. And so you need to be clear about, again, are we building it on fear? Because fear is basically from a mindset of you being in control, you being the authority,
yes,
you being your source, you being your everything. And so if I am my everything, then I'm in trouble because I got to sleep, I got to eat. There's things that humans have to do that God doesn't have to do, that a whole world could be destroyed while you're sleeping. And so don't put your trust in yourself. One of the things I think is a big issue in our society now is our lack of reverence for, submission to, and need for a higher authority than yourself. And so we talk about isolation. Another big issue with fear is also autonomy. It's my life, it's my world, I can do what I want to do. And while you may not think that that's being dishonest, it is being dishonest. Because guess what? You didn't create you. You don't wake you up. You don't give you breath. You don't give you... So again, that goes back to pride.
Yep.
And so in thinking about building your life on fear, can you see why so many marriages fail? Because we said it, and we said again, and we're going to keep saying it. Marriage takes three. You, your spouse, and God. There is no other combination. I don't care what anyone tells you, marriage takes three. And as long as it's you, yourself, I, and your spouse, that's not three. It only needs three. But when you're living your life with you as the head of your life and you as your source, and you don't have a head, you don't have a source, then it's going to crumble.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for hanging out this weekend. We're talking about love and fear on the Rich Relationship Podcast, or the live session that we do every Saturday, 12 noon Central Standard Time. And those who are putting the positive comments, we really appreciate it, Sandra. Yeah, pride is, this is actually good. When we talk about those things, Captain T, I seen your comment earlier. Appreciate that, because when you think about the comments that are actually being put, this is a community. That's what we're trying to build for people who want to get better at their relationship. For people who just want to come in and crack jokes and do things, that's fine. But we're just going to ignore it.
Yeah.
So one thing that we want to talk about in this session, we talking about love and fear, is going into, now let's finish this off talking about the love side. Woo-hoo! Love has got to be the foundation for what you are building your relationship on. Just like we gave you a list, of fear, we are actually want to talk to you about the love side, because that's where our focus, that's where our attention should be, on building our relationships. Starting out, it has to be the cornerstone of your foundation of your relationship. When we talk about love, the Bible gives you multiple definitions in it.
Different types, different stages of love.
Yeah, but this is actually a reflection of God's love for us when we show our relationship and our marriages to others. Two things that we put in the book, and we talked about it, that we just want to address two types of love. You got agape love, which is the unconditional love that we should be constantly striving for. And that's what God has actually put on this earth for us to demonstrate and exercise towards our significant others. But unfortunately, and it's not a bad thing, but it has its place, is eros love. Eros love is the romantic type. That's the kind we always start out this love relationship with.
No, we start with phileo.
We start
with affectionate love.
Affectionate love, but then we go, well, you should go into romance. That's where you should be. But going into eros love, where that's where you are seeing this person as somebody that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and that's what you should be exercising and looking towards.
And I am so grateful for all of you. The time that you stop and take and
hang out with us
and invest in putting your comments and sharing and watching and listening, it helps us to know that we're sowing seeds on good ground.
And let's pause for a second because I see Dominique's questions. Have y'all cheated on each other?
No.
No, that is something that we started out with our relationship on, that we talked about when it came to what does cheating mean. When you boyfriend and girlfriend has a totally different context than when you are married, when you have one of these and you made a commitment to each other. Cheating on when you were growing up, cheating on your boyfriend or your girlfriend because you talked to somebody else, or you actually got somebody else's phone number, or you spent some time with somebody else. Some people would consider that cheating.
But in a marriage, it's called adultery. And no, we have never committed adultery towards each other.
No, because you think about it, that is more of an individual issue than it is a marriage issue. We always say marriage is two people that come together that have their own issues and challenges, and then they come into a marriage and they bring it into the marriage, and marriage gets the blame. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not the marriage you didn't do, or the marriage did something wrong. It's you had some unresolved things that you didn't work out in the relationship before you said I do, that you guys are now reaping the consequences of when it comes to, because it kind of goes back to the fear things that we were talking about. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. And I think a part of it is understanding that if you are the kind of person that you cheat, it really has nothing to do with the other person you're with.
No.
People cheat because they built their life on fear and they are their own God. And so instead of God fulfilling them, they're expecting for a person to fulfill them. When someone cheats, ladies, men, if someone cheats on you, it has nothing to do with you, your value, how great you are, how amazing you are, how much greatness you bring to a relationship. It has everything to do with a broken child inside of them that is looking for fulfillment from another human being.
Yes.
Adultery has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do with you weren't enough. It has everything to do with they had some spiritual and emotional and sometimes psychological areas in their life that have been unresolved. And whether you married them 2 years or 4 years later, until that is addressed, until their relationship with God is resolved, until those pains are healed, they're going to continue to cheat.
Yeah.
Marriage doesn't keep you from cheating. Marriage is a covenant between you and God. What keeps you from cheating is your own integrity, your character, and how you view yourself.
Yep. And that kind of goes back into what we talked about, talking about fear. Let's talk about communication. This is another way to build your relationship.
Talking about love. Talking about love.
Talking about love, being hot. We've used this acronym multiple times.
We have shirts.
You may have heard it in different areas and in different teachings, and not just by us, by other people. It stands for honest, open, and transparent. When you are honest with the person that you're with, it kind of prevents the cheating from happening, because you are talking about the deficiencies that you have that is causing you to cheat, or causing you to do other things in a relationship that is causing damage to the relationship, because you haven't been honest with your communication about what's really going on with you.
And I think it's also, I think about being honest. Again, we got to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with God. And before we can be honest with somebody else, we got to be honest with ourselves. We have to be willing to really get to know yourself so that you can, I always say, you can't give yourself away until you know who you are. And so that's an important part. And like for us, we got married at 21. So the way that God gave us time to get to know ourselves was through deployments.
Yeah.
When Gil would go away, God was like, okay, it's me and you, Renee. Okay, Gil, it's me and you. And it allowed us to be apart, but it brought us closer together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so being honest, being open.
And then transparent.
Being open to, and I think we don't like this, I have to be open to my husband telling me the things about me that I love and the things about me that I need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. It's those times when you have a relationship where you feel like you can't come to the other person with and being transparent about things that you see that are a challenge and a struggle in the relationship that you guys need to work on. It's not just Renee's issue, it's my issue as well, that we have to come together as a team to say, you know what, we need to work on our relationship in this area, in this capacity. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this Saturday. We appreciate all the comments in there. That's good and all that. So talking about love in action as we get close to
honest, open, transparent.
Yeah, you talked about transparent. So yeah, being transparent, being open, being showing what's really going on.
Honest, transparent. Okay.
Yes. Okay. And love in action actually looked at. Renee mentioned it earlier in the context of it can't talk about fear as being a counterproductive, but the other one was being selfless. If you are selfish, that's fear. You have to be selfless when you want to operate in love when it comes to your relationship, because a selfless person will do anything for this person that I'm in a relationship with. So if you have an issue or a challenge with putting someone else ahead of you, stay single.
Yeah.
Don't get married. Because until you can get past that selfishness and get to a point of being selfless, you're going to struggle. I don't care if you're just dating, you're going to struggle.
Yeah. And it's important. So we talked about the root of and the fruit. So what are the fruits of love? We all know them. I want y'all to put them in the comments. Love, joy, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, meekness, and self-control.
Yes.
So God makes it clear, and people always say, well, life don't come with instructions. You a lie. God loved us so much that he created us in his image and his likeness. He sent his son to bring us back to him, and he left us a whole love letter of instructions and guidance and direction on us to be able to know him and understand him. And I told you guys, sidebar, I told you guys I'm reading the Bible, through the whole Bible, 4 chapters a day, every day. And I'm in Exodus. And I'm in Exodus. And the thing that I love about how detail-oriented God is that he was like, I want you to not... So when I'm reading, I'm like, Lord, I'm not trying to learn the Bible. I am trying to understand you better. And I'm trying to see all the steps you have taken to keep me in a relationship with you. And that's really what the Bible is about.
Yes.
And so it's just important that when you think about love and joy and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and meekness and self-control, those are all the evidence and the fruit. And those are like the power. That's what everybody talks about, what God's power is. God's power is love. And when you think about that, I want the power, I just want to love. The way that we are the most like Christ is when we are loving the lovely, the ugly, the hateful. And your love is not tested when you're loving people you love.
Yeah.
Your love is tested when you're loving someone who has been challenging. That person at the grocery store who's maybe rude, or the person in the car that may have,
or a person in the comments.
Yeah, and this is the thing. What you put in the comments says so much about your heart and not ours. Because doing what we do takes work, discipline, time, money, sacrifice. And so it's easier to critique than it is to create. And again, when you think about love or fear, that's fear.
That's okay.
That's fear. And until...
But you got to choose to come out.
You got to choose. You have to choose. And so we just want to make sure that we're giving you some practical understanding of how do you navigate this life with another person. And yes, all the things that happen to other people happen to us. Have I had opportunities to cheat? Yes. Has Gil had opportunity? Yeah. But you got to have opportunity and desire. See, that's the problem. If you don't have a desire to cheat, the opportunity won't matter. But if you have a desire to cheat, you're going to make the opportunity.
Or the opportunity, which is the enemy, is going to present it to you constantly.
Right. And but there has to be both. Desire and opportunity.
But you're going to fall, if you're living through fear, you're going to fall right into it.
Yeah.
So then the last one we're going to talk about is love is a journey.
Yes.
Love is a journey when we talk about it, especially when you start out dating. That's always the great time. Everybody loves it when it's at the beginning, when it's new. When it's new, everything is, whether you got a new car, a new house, a new anything, you love everything about it. Well, when we say it's a journey, you're going to go from that new stage to one that you're more
Discovery.
familiar with, one that you're actually discovering different things about this person, and that's where it should be going.
Like they do things like they breath stink in the morning or they fart. That's all a part of it. If you decide you're not gonna like somebody, I don't like him because everybody is going to fart. Everyone is going to have bad breath in the morning. Everybody is going to have good days and bad days. That is what you're signing up for. You're signing up for sharing your imperfect life with another imperfect person.
Yes. Moving towards that journey is to get to the state of being unconditional love towards this person. You know it's good when unconditional love hits because things that used to matter don't matter as much anymore. Things that they used to do that just sets you off, when you have resolved and worked through some of the fears that you have in your own life and in your own relationship, they don't bother you as much as they did.
Gil is very organized. I am very messy. And I know that it drove him crazy. And I have seasons where during this fast, I have not been as neat as I normally had learned to be. I've been tired, y'all. And so I'm just grateful for the fact that we don't nitpick each other.
About stuff that don't matter.
You know, I will say that during the fast, Gil said I gave him a stink eye because I've been doing raw and Gil, I've been still.
Everybody's fast is different, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's fast is different. And so he wanted to eat a tortilla. And I was like, babe, you need to eat some lettuce. And he was like, did you just give me the stink eye? I said, I'm sorry, you right. If you want to eat your tortilla, you gave up. He said, I'm not eating nothing. I said, oh, baby, I'm sorry. So we have to make sure that we don't project our standards onto the person that we love. Because again, when I learn to control myself, everyone around me changed. Ladies, say that with me. When I learn to control myself, because we are good at controlling everybody else. I don't know about men. I'm just talking about us, ladies.
Well, no, it's not. It's both.
But I'm only a girl.
Yeah.
I only know how to be a woman, so I don't try to correct men. Let me just say that. It is not my job or my role as a wife and a helpmate to check him and correct him. It is my job and my goal and my role as a wife to support him and to lead by example and to lovingly redirect things that are unhealthy by my actions, not my words.
Yes.
I'm not going to try to tell. He a grown man.
Because how many people can tell somebody else to do and they just do it? If somebody tell you something to do, they can advise you, but ultimately you're going to have to decide if you're going to follow through and do whatever it is they're suggesting that you actually do. So you can't control anybody.
No, only you.
So when it comes to building your love on relationship, I told you guys at the end, bringing to your relationship on love, I told you guys in the Bible, it actually gives you a checklist that you can actually look at. And it's in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. And I got it, and I love it in the Message because it actually gives you a list that you can, as a definition of what does it look like. So if you listen to this and you see it, compare what you do in your viewpoint on love, especially when you're in a relationship with someone else. How do you measure up when it comes to this? Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut, doesn't have a swelled head, doesn't force itself on others, isn't always me first, doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others, doesn't revel when others grovel, takes pleasure in the flowing of truth. It puts up with everything, trusts God always look for the best, never looks back, but keeps going to the end. It is something when you gauge not on the things that we talked about for almost this hour, whether it's fear or love, but when you compare your life and your standards against the Bible standards, the things that we're telling you, we're just sharing with you what the Bible says, what we've experienced, and let's leave it up to you guys to decide if you're going to
practice it or not.
Practice it or not, which is fine. We're just telling you from, as they say, we got the receipts for 39 years of being together and 36 years married, happily married. And I'm saying it for myself.
And I am joyfully, happily, gratefully married.
So if we're saying it, those are the receipts that we have. And all we're doing is trying to sow seeds and share with you the things that we have walked out
And that we
learned,
are walking out.
and we practice just so we all can build these relationships that we so desire. But it takes work, it takes effort, it takes you looking at yourself, just like Sandra said earlier, that inventory list that we are always doing and we're gauging ourselves against. Don't gauge yourself up against lists that people put up just because we gave you something.
Right.
Go to the Bible.
Check it out.
Look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and
Look
say,
at Galatians 5.
how do I line up with this? Then that is the standard. Not us at the standard, not anything that anybody says as the standard. Check the Bible against the things that people are saying, not check what people are saying and look at it and say, oh, okay, let me see if the Bible backs that up. No, it's the other way around.
Right.
It's what we're saying backed up by the Bible.
Right.
And we just shared with you guys over this last 50 plus minutes the things that we have been talked about and learned about when it comes to love and fear. Which one are you living your life on or building your relationship on? So we appreciate you guys having all the comments, the positive ones.
I'm going to
chimed in.
So what I want to do right now, I want to give you guys a chance to ask questions, and I'm going to screenshot some of these comments because for some reason on YouTube, the comments don't translate over. So if there's something that you want us to see in the comments,
or a question that you
or
want
a
us
question
to
that you
ask,
have, wait until this video goes up and then put it in those comments. Because our live, there's always people here commenting, and we can't go back and watch them later. So if there's a comment that you have or something that you want to know,
or for a real question that you want to discuss or talk about, by all means, put it in the comments and put a Q.
not in this comment.
Not in this comment.
After the video goes up.
And put it a Q in there for something that you really want us to feedback on. Because sometimes people, we appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us.
We love you guys.
You know, we had a big encouraged and increased growth and people coming and hang out with us. That tells us that evidently we must be talking about a subject that people want to talk about.
Yes.
And that's what we are trying to do, is to help build those relationships. So if there's a question or a comment that you want us to address in response to, by all means put it in there, and we will, because we sat back here yesterday for almost 2 hours trying to answer every comment. Either Renee did it or I did it.
We did it
and
together.
we responded to you guys because we appreciate your investment in time
We do.
and hanging out with us.
And so if in the comments you leave a heart, no matter what it is, when you leave a comment in our feed, we are going to respond because we know that you could just hit a like and not leave a comment. That means a lot to us. We appreciate you. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe, and not only subscribe, hit the bell notification so that when we go live, you won't miss it. We post
Renee
3
posts every
times
day.
a day, 7 days a week. We do our live once a week, and we post up a video. Like this week's video I posted up was me making whole plant-based juice, how to do that. I have a certification in plant-based nutrition. I have been on this journey with my learning how to eat healthy and have a better lifestyle since I was 11. I started dieting at 11. But for the past 10 years, I've maintained a healthy weight because we are plant-based. And so during this fasting journey, I want to share some of the things that we're learning and how to make it fast, affordable, and delicious, because so many people comment about my skin and how we look. It is prayer,
I think it's pretty good for 57.
fasting, good loving, and a plant-based lifestyle, in that order. And so Gil is wanting me to do more videos explaining food science. I am a food science nerd. I love.
All I can say is she makes it easy to follow.
Yes.
And if you want that's a whole nother, it's on our website.
Yeah, we have a plant-based
We have a section
area.
just for if you want to
Plant-based
focus
nutrition.
on the plant-based nutrition and the things that Renee does on that capacity. Go there, check it out, look at it. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this Saturday.
We love you guys.
We done took up too much of y'all time because we got to get ready. We seen some of the I was looking at those negative comments. Don't be mad.
Don't be mad. Detroit against everyone.
We've been struggling for 50 plus years, you know. So Brandy, I seen your comment. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
We love you guys. Thank you all.
Yeah, so Love you guys. We will see you guys
next Saturday at 12 noon Central Standard Time. Unless Jesus comes, we'll all be gone and we won't need to be doing this. So we'll see you guys next Saturday. Please share this video with your family and friends. Please watch our long content. Everyone